Hello, world. Welcome to No Brainer Episode 2, where we bring you fantastic interviews with fantastic people. Tonight, we got a great guest, but first, let me introduce you to my fabulous host, Derek. Derek.
Thanks, Zach. Or should I say Big Daddy Zach? Thank you, Big Daddy Zach.
In the house, baby.
Proving
You know,
your
it's funny.
name.
I got that nickname. I'll go over it in a little bit, but let me introduce Chris. We have Chris tonight, Chris Coates, who is a licensed Florida home inspector. So if you need your house inspected, that's the guy. We'll get you his information. We'll make sure we put it in the link below. Check it out. We're going to interview him tonight. Tonight, we're talking about entrepreneurism, business in Florida, and maybe we'll have a little cup of Derek's tears because I'm sure he's going to cry at one point. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Thanks.
Happy to be here.
Hey, Derek.
Guys, I wanted just to make this less sketchy feeling, I wanted to give you guys kind of a formal introduction. So, Chris, okay, so right now on my screen, I'm on the far left. Chris is in the middle. Zach's on the right. And what I'm going to say is Zach thinks he's like my best customer ever, Chris, but I told him there are different so background actually all of us met through my business, which is pretty cool, but this is kind of the first time us coming together. I know you guys will click really good, so I'm really cool. Just we have similar ideology and kind of similar thought process. And Zach, there's multiple, you have to compartmentalize best, and I'm not going to say customer, I'm going to say guest. You've got the people you become best friends with.
Yeah.
You got the people that buy big ticket things, and you got the people you see in your waiting room every other weekend with their dog.
I never brought my dog.
And we're not talking about you. Although you have become one of my best friends already, Chris is also a friend of mine who Chris, he took a different route. Chris took the route of repetition. He just kept showing up. And eventually I'm like, I started almost feeling bad, like whenever I wasn't there when he was there, because I'm like, I actually really enjoy. You're one of the few people I can have like a half-hour conversation with, and then your car doesn't come out messed up or something like that.
Yeah, same.
And then you hate me.
Well, we had
never
3
happened.
vehicles, 4. Let's see, 2 Kixes, my truck, Lorianne's truck, and Jana's truck. So we had 5 vehicles done with you.
Chris, you want to have hold your beer?
No, I'm sure you're good, Chris. I don't have a company. I don't have many trucks or anything like that.
Yeah, I met like 20 with him over the years, but I'm not even exaggerating. I did 19 or 20.
Did you get them detailed, or did you just get tinted, or did you get wrapped?
Just full tint.
Nice. Yeah, we got 3 cars tinted and then 3 cars detailed. Nice. He did a really nice professional ceramic job on it. My truck looks like butt right now, but that's because the pollen is ridiculous here in Apopka.
Yeah,
that's because
I have a black truck and it's yellow.
Sap areas too, man.
Yeah,
you're just
no. I don't have any trees in my yard. I cut them all down.
Oh, whatever. You take that thing out on the road.
No, my truck actually. You don't have a company car now. I don't have to take my truck out.
You're not
except for the weekend.
Drive it. You're supposed to just look at it.
It is every Sunday. Sunday it goes to church, and Saturday it may run to Publix. That's about it. I got to blow the diesel out every once in a while.
There you go.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I love driving my truck, but I also like driving the Bronco. That's a lot of fun. Although my wife has not wanted to take the roof off yet, but
well, with Chris, I've seen every SUV manufactured known to man, and then some in the last 3 years. And so I'm gonna be really honest with you right now, and I think this is a compliment. I don't even think I really notice what your car is anymore.
Neither do I.
And they're always nice cars, and they're always like quality cars, and they're solid vehicles. And my compliment is it doesn't even matter, when you're in my waiting area, I'm happy. So
yeah,
Chris, why do you have so many cars? Are you
I'll segue into that. It's not something, I appreciate the compliment, but it is not a good habit that I've had over the years. I'm just a car nut. I get bored with cars and kind of jump from car to car to car, but no kids, not married. It's always been my I know I lose money on cars at times, but I don't care. It's a passion, and I love them. I think I have a running. I know I have a running list. I'm at like 78 cars in my life.
Do you remember what your first car was?
I do. It was a 1977 Super Beetle.
Nice.
It was given to me with the master cylinder, and the brakes was shot. The floor was rotted out. So I put plywood floor in it.
I don't know a Volkswagen that didn't have a rotted floor out.
Yeah.
No, that's Beetle and Rabbit.
Yeah.
101.
Put a plywood floor in it, mounted the battery to the plywood floor, and drove that when I was 15.
We actually like the holes in the floor. We like the holes in the floor so we could make it go faster.
Yeah,
we Fred Flintstone that.
Oh,
Yeah,
you
for
have to do it. I was going to say it's either that or first gen air conditioning.
Yeah.
Oh, let me tell you what. My friend had a Beetle. I'm gonna have to find Eddie and ask him what year it was. We drove up to his old college. I grew up in Jersey, and we drove up to. He went to school up in outside of Scranton, PA, which was up in the mountains, and like we were getting passed by like horse and buggy. That thing was it was screaming trying to make it up the hills.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, should I get out and maybe we'll get there faster?
Like 68 horsepower.
Yeah, it had zero heat, and it was snowing. It was miserable. But yeah, no, I laugh because my very first car my parents gave me. Well, I bought it from them. My parents are cheap; they wouldn't give me nothing. I had to buy it from them for $1, so my dad wouldn't pay taxes on it, so he could put on the title and pay $1. Yeah, it was a 1984 Renault Alliance.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was a 5-speed. And oh my gosh, I was the e-brake master in that thing. I had so much fun. And my friends thought it was the craziest thing because it was a French car, so the hood opened from the windshield out, kind of like the Saabs did, you know. And everybody thought that was like, oh my gosh, what is that? And then I wrecked it. I totaled it. Me and my girlfriend were out one night, and I got crazy on this little side street and in the snow, and I hit a big curb and ripped the whole A-arm off, and it wasn't worth fixing. Yeah, and then I drove my dad's 1977 Volkswagen camper van.
We had one of those.
We did too. We went cross country in it twice, 82 and 84. We went. I've been to all states except for Alaska and Hawaii, and my parents actually drove to Alaska in it. But I always laugh thinking back now that I'm a dad and I have 3 daughters and everything, and I'm like, if some dude rolled up in a freaking Volkswagen pop top camper, nah, you're not taking my daughter anywhere.
Yeah.
Nice try, pal. I just laugh at it anyway. And then I rolled that in the snow also. Then my dad got an 82, so that's the one he took to Alaska.
You'd be like, no, thank you, Brian Landry. Please go home.
Let me show you my gun collection before you show my daughter your inside of your van.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and then I had the first car I actually purchased with my own money that I earned, allegedly, was a 1977 Chevy Malibu 2-door.
Nice.
Yeah. First thing I did, dropped that 6-cylinder that was in it and put a 350 in it.
Wow.
And I kept it totally stock, except we put, the wide body police tires on it, the black wall fat tires. And it was a total sleeper. People had no idea till I would eat them right off the line. They wouldn't even know what was happening. They're like, what just happened? What is in that car? Yeah, that was a fun car. We had a lot of fun with it, and my friends used to call it the Bouvette because it was not a Corvette, but I drove it like it was one.
I bet.
Yeah, we had a good time. Derek, what was your first car? Was it a 2000 probably? Youngster.
Are you both 70s babies?
I am.
68.
Yeah, 1970.
Nice.
Oh my gosh! So
you graduated 88?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was 87.
Madison, Connecticut.
Nice. I missed the cutoff date, so I was 87.
Right on.
And my sister didn't, so she was 88. It was really awkward.
I was born in 85, and my dad got a 1991
we could have been your father.
Ford Ranger XLT 1.7 liter, and it was baby blue, I remember, and I was 6, and he pulled it into my grandparents' driveway, and he told me the color, and I called it Blue Baby. So baby blue. Everyone thought that was funny because I'm 6 and I don't know what I'm talking about. And he said, you can have that truck when you turn 16. He drove it 10 years. He put 56,000 miles on it, and I turned 16. Wow. He gave it to me for $1, and I finished football practice on my birthday, and they Drove it to the school, little balloons on it.
Oh,
And,
that's
Was
cool.
Was it a
Yeah.
5-speed or was it automatic?
Oh no, my friend. No, my friend. It was not automatic.
Nice.
Okay. Think about this. I love and respect my dad. That said, extremely hardworking, extremely OCD, extremely difficult to train with from an empathy standpoint. Now, when you're 14 and 9 months and you're emotionally fragile, and the very first vehicle you're learning to drive is a 1.7 liter long Christmas tree stick Ford Ranger in the
Yep.
middle of intersections, cutting the car out with your dad screaming at you, you get traumatized. The one thing you do not ever forget, no matter how many years it's been, how to jump in and drive any stick you can possibly
Yeah.
imagine. Because if you can somehow transition the clutch to the gas in that tiny little thing,
Right.
everything else is a piece of cake. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not
So-
going to speak for all the funky shifting mechanisms these things have now, where you like push the ball, grab it, squeak its nose twice, and twist it and give it a little bit of juice. But in terms of transitioning that clutch to the gas, you can put me in anything right now. I'll try smooth as someone you think has been driving a clutch every day.
Oh, I 100% agree, and
And I appreciate
I
that.
love
Yeah.
stick shift, to be honest with you, but my knees don't like it anymore in traffic down here.
Well,
I
you
mean,
know what I
that's
can
all I
imagine?
drove.
You know what I can imagine? Nowadays, pretty much all these cars we drive are like, now if you get into a real new model, you've got the adaptive cruise control, right, with the lane limiter, so it'll stop if you're getting close to people. And then it's got its auto centering and stuff, and everything's automatic. Okay, and now
What was
we're
it doing?
old, so we don't do anything crazy while we're driving. We drive. When you're 16 and you have a stick shift, and you're my age, see, I was the first age where like we got a Nokia cell phone with 100 minutes at age 14, and that was cool. And that was okay. So now I'm 16. Okay, you've got the truck, you've got your CD player, your Discman CD player plugged into the tape deck in the middle, switching
Sure.
songs.
Right.
High
You've got
fidelity.
you've got your cigarette in the left hand, and you've got your phone in the right hand, bro, these kids don't know what the struggle is to drive this state. I'm telling you, man. When you're like this, you got to blow it out the window. You don't smell like smoke through that when you come home. I mean, that is a skill. That is what you call juggling.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, the 100. Well, I mean, it's what is it nowadays? It's a theft deterrent. You have a stick shift. They don't know how to do it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. No
Well,
one's
I learned how to drive stick because as a kid, my dad only drove stick, and one of the things, the joys that he would let me do, was I would shift for him while we were driving. So I sat in the passenger seat and I would just shift while we had that '77 Volkswagen with 7-mile long stick shift. It was like you're up here, you're shifting, and I learned how to do it. And I'll never forget the first time I drove an automatic. I almost wrecked because I hit the brake with the wrong foot. And I'm trying to do the gas and the brake, and my friend's like, "There's no clutch. It's just a brake
Yeah.
and gas pedal."
One foot drive.
Right. And when I took my driver's test, so in Jersey you get your license when you're 17. So when I was 17, I went to the DMV in my Renault Alliance. My mom took me. I'll never forget. And we pull in there, and the guy who was giving me my test, he said, "Are you sure you want to take your test in a stick?" And I said, "I don't know how to drive an automatic, so why would I not? This is all I know how to drive." And he's like, "Okay." And I remember I got done taking the test, and the last thing that you have to do is parallel park, which that's another thing nobody's had to do anymore. They got cars that automatically do it for them.
Yeah.
And so I had to parallel park, and I pull right in. He opens the door, looks at it. He's like, "Yeah, you know how to drive stick. You're good." So, it was good. But yes, so all right. So you had your first car, Derek, your first car, my first car. So those we're car nuts. So I got into the auto industry. You talk about a car. I've driven everything. And we've talked about this before, Derek. To me, every car is a piece of iron. I mean, it's iron sled. That's it.
careful. You might be
Except
doing
one.
fighting words there with the man in the middle.
There's only one car that really gets me excited. I've driven Ferraris, I've driven Vets, I've driven everything. I mean, literally the only thing I don't think I've never driven a Tesla. I can't say I've driven a EV.
I've had a couple.
I've had EV. I've had not Teslas, but I drove I worked for a company and they gave me a Prius. They used to look for the sales guy. He looks like the clown car. It's a little red car and this big giant guy gets out of it. But it was not an EV, so that's what do they call hybrid? That was a hybrid.
Yeah,
But I've
correct.
never
Well,
driven an
those
EV.
Chris, have you ever? I don't think you've ever brought us an EV. Have you ever had an EV?
I've brought you a Model
What did-
Y, a Model 3, and a Rivian. Those have
So
all
I
been-
hear Rivians are really nice.
No,
Yeah.
I want to cut to this. What did you do with those? I mean, I'm sure you told me when you brought
So
them.
when
in.
with the Teslas, I've had 5 Teslas, but I went through a little process where I was buying them before they came out, and then when they came out, I was tint them, do whatever to do with them, and then people were offering me over what I paid for them because you couldn't get them at the time.
Right.
And I did the same thing with the Rivian. The Rivian I ordered 2 years before it came out.
That had to be really easy to unload.
Was
Oh,
the
I was-
Rivian the pickup truck?
Yes, the
Yeah.
R1T, and it is an amazing vehicle. I will say it's
I was
unbelievably impressive. Unbelievably.
so I was
impressive.
at a customer's house the other day, and this is before I got my company car, and I pull up in my GMC 2500 AT4 diesel, and she's got a Rivian, and I'm like, that's a really nice truck. She's like, sweetheart. She goes, you have a real truck. She goes, mine is a toy compared to yours. And we got to talking about EVs, and she's part of the LGBTQ community. And I said, what do you think of the Teslas or the Tesla truck? And she goes, you want the honest opinion? I go, yeah. She's like, I had one. She goes, they're for fags. I was like, oh my gosh. And she goes, and I can say that. I was like, better you than me.
I thought you were gonna say. I thought you were gonna say that she said they were gay.
Pretty much. But I mean, her Rivian compared to a Tesla Cybertruck, I mean, it's a beautiful truck.
And it's they way over engineered the Rivian. Like he engineered that thing to last forever. They are,
and I hear they're
engineered
faster and stronger, and I mean it's like a truck.
0 to 60 in 3 seconds in sport mode, but it'll pull 11,000 pounds. I mean, obviously you're not towing with an EV because of range, but it will pull 11,000 pounds. And
you could tow with it, but that would just eat the battery in a minute, wouldn't
correct.
it? Yeah,
correct. But they're a beast. They are really well put together. I mean, he put the Meridian sound system in those things, everything. So I had no complaints about that truck. I actually, if I ever get another EV, it'll probably be a Rivian. Teslas are great too, but I don't know.
Have you driven the Cybertruck?
No, I haven't driven it, but I think it's hideous. I wouldn't be seen in the Cybertruck. I just visually, it's never done it for me. I thought when I saw it in person, I would like it better, and there's just nothing about it I like, which is very random for me to say. I normally find something I like about any car.
Do you think it's a passing thing, or do you think they'll simply just refresh it and it'll become? Because I mean, look at all the models, right? Really, like
yeah.
I gotta be honest. Except for the S and the Y originally, I thought the 3 and the X were less than attractive. But I'm finding the refreshes that they're doing is really like
they look cool. They look cool.
Yeah,
I think the Rivian truck will have as much of a lifespan as the Pontiac Aztek did because they look exactly alike.
Oh, that is a death wish.
But it's the truth.
You meant the Rivian or the Cybertruck?
No, the Cybertruck. Sorry, thank you for the correction. The Cybertruck.
Okay.
Yes.
Say,
my bad.
I don't know who I was having this discussion with the other day, but it was about the worst or most hideous vehicles or most failure models of certain makes, and the Aztec came up, and I remember that thing.
Oh,
it's the same shape. Like they're very similar shape.
Ugly. Didn't it have a
Pontiac?
Didn't it have a built-in tent pop up?
Yes, yeah.
So like,
it did. They made it a camper version. Yes.
So like you'd come up to someone at work who had it, and they'd be like, "Yeah, bro, man, me and my wife, we took this camping this weekend. It's got this tent," and I'd be like,
it was ahead of its time, but it was just hideous.
Rock out, man.
Well, it's funny.
I have a regular car, and I bought a tent or a hotel room.
Yeah.
When I was truck shopping, I was looking at all kind of different trucks, and this is not on the same thing, but it's kind of. And I was small trucks, big trucks. I mean, my dream was to get a 2500 diesel, but at the time I was shopping, I didn't think I was going to be able to afford it. Fast forward, we did end up getting one, but I was actually looking at like the Rangers and the Canyons and the Toyotas and all those things. And I went and looked at the Hyundai Santa Cruz.
Uh-huh.
And it reminded me of the Subaru Brat. Do you remember that?
The Subaru Brat with the jump
seats
seats.
My friend had one. It had the 2 jump seats in the back. It was such a cool little truck.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, they sold a it was a soft top kind of like the Jeep, so they could go camping in it if they wanted to. They could turn the back into a bed. And I'm
Correct.
driving by seeing I was passing a Santa Cruz the other day. My wife's laughing. She's like, "Glad you didn't get that thing." I'm like, "Yeah, it could fit in the bed of
Chris
my
has
truck."
had a Santa Cruz.
No, I
dude.
haven't. I didn't
Yes,
get one.
you have.
No, I haven't. I promise. I would tell you.
I swear that's the pickup truck, right?
Yeah,
The
I've
Santa
never
Cruz,
had
yes,
that.
it is.
I've
Yeah,
never
it's
had
a cool little truck. It's
I'm
basically
sure
though,
you
it's
haven't
just a
had
car.
I'm sure.
It's just a car with the back cut out. That's all it is.
I have a list. I literally have a running list. I have a spreadsheet. I have an Excel
That's awesome.
spreadsheet of every car I've
I
ever
went
owned.
through when I worked for the dealerships, when I moved up into management since '03, I always had a demo, so I drove whatever I wanted. And it was funny because I went through a phase where my wife used to call me the grandpa because I would drive the big Lincolns or Cadillacs because, man, there's nothing better than driving a couch home, after a hard day, you get in that big luxury ride and it's just,
Very
but yeah, I mean, it was a grandpa car, but yeah, my all-time favorite car, the only car that still gets me excited, and I will have one day, and Derek, you should know what it is. Come on.
I'm waiting.
Can you please hint? Because my brain's in a different location. I'm not listening.
Bentley Continental GT.
Oh wow.
You
Yeah.
don't, okay, that I'm never going to remember that because you just don't look like you actually want to fit in one.
Yeah,
I
I
do.
wouldn't have picked that. I wouldn't have picked that.
You're a big
If you've
dude.
driven every car I've driven, that car is so just,
Oh, they're
I
nice.
don't know. It's
super nice.
But you know what? My wife tells me, she goes, we were looking at one, and not that we were going to buy one. We're not there yet, but someday. We were looking at it, and I was like, someday I'll have that. She goes, that just oozes douchebag. I'm like, okay.
Kind
And
of. I just feel like you personally, if I were to even be confident and comfortable driving that, I would have to be confident that is roughly 10% of my annual passive income.
yeah,
You know what
I'm not
saying?
buying one
Like-
unless I hit the lottery.
Well, like I'm saying, like if my net was whatever, and I had enough investments where 3-4 million were coming in a year, I was like, okay, yeah, cool, let's go. And I still don't think I really want one that bad. I don't know why. I mean, they're great.
Both of
but-
my cars together is probably half of one.
yeah.
They're 250, 300, I
I was
think.
gonna say the 230 to 250.
Oh, at least.
Yeah.
Well, you're not gonna buy new.
No.
You can't.
If
get it, right?
if I was to do it, if I was in that financial situation, I would probably just lease it.
Yeah.
Just lease
don't-
it for 3 years and get a new
I'm
one.
Drive it,
assuming
get it
it's
out of
one
your
of those-
system.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. And then go, all
assuming
right, let me get some.
Chris, I'm assuming it's one of those situations like a Rolex or a G-Wagon or whatever where
Oh,
you don't
G-Wagons
just
are
go
so
and buy
ugly.
one. You are on a regular buyer list where you will take X amount.
Yeah. You tinted a G-Wagon I had. I didn't buy it to keep. I bought it to flip. The
You
gray
Did you
one.
like it?
Yeah, no, I hated it.
Okay. I thought so.
It
They
was-
look like they're
it was
very hard to
a-
drive.
$135,000 Jeep Wrangler is what it is.
See,
Yeah,
it's
that's what I'm saying. My wife
No, but I
is
mean, like quality was there, but they're loud. They're not comfortable. They're. I mean, it's literally just a Wrangler.
your wife's Range Rover is nicer than a G-Wagon.
Oh, big time. Those are, more.
so the
luxury.
Range Rover feels like you're literally floating on a couch, and the G-Wagon, like Chris said, is you're gonna feel the road. And she thinks that's her dream car, and I go, that's cool. I've seen cars and driven in cars, and
Rent her one for a day. She'll be over it.
yeah, that's a great. Yeah, you know
So
what?
I'm
I
glad
like
you
can
said that,
probably
Chris.
solve a lot of problems in my life.
Just rent her one for like 2 days. I promise she'll be done with it.
When my wife and I were shopping for cars,
Yes.
we had gotten ours already, but we had talked about I talked about getting a Gladiator, and she talked about getting a Jeep Wrangler because we both she wanted the Bronco style, and I just wanted a pickup truck because everybody should own. I think you should own a pickup truck because you need them.
I've had like 15.
Yeah. So I went out to Arizona for a wedding, and we rented a Gladiator, and I am so glad I didn't buy it.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you what. First of all, Arizona speed limit's like 80 miles an hour. There's literally the sign says it's 75, but still, I struggled to do 75. It was scary.
Yeah.
Like that thing was all over the road, and there was no room. My wife was sitting she was right next to me. Like my truck is huge. My compartment is big inside, this thing was, I was like so glad I didn't get one. So yeah, that's true story. Rent one, and if you say you want a car, rent it. If I want a
Beautiful.
Corvette, I'll just come over to your house and borrow yours.
It's at the shop.
I probably won't fit it in it anyway.
Let's Chris.
Well, I was going to get to that, Chris. So are you located here in Central Florida?
Correct.
What is your territory?
Basically anywhere Central Florida. I'm right in the center. I'm in Celebration, but yeah, I mean, I'll do just about any radius. I'm going to Summerfield this week, which is almost Ocala.
Which is kind of something Central Florida-ish.
That's usually about as far out as I go, unless it's a realtor I do a lot of work with, or somebody really needs a favor, I'll go a little farther. But for the most part, it kind of stays in that 50 to 70 mile radius from this. Let's just say, right at Disney, you could say maybe.
Who's your top client? What is the client you're looking for?
So as far as clientele goes, it obviously it's great to do. The bigger the house, the more I make in that industry. We're based on square footage typically, and then ancillary services that add on. So obviously, yeah, if you could be in Keens Point and Isleworth and all these places all day long, that's fantastic. But you also have your bread and butter, and those 1,700 square foot, houses all day long in Florida. Those are no joke either, because you can knock those out and a couple in a day, and make good money doing that too.
And you're inspecting homes for sale or
anything? I do pre-listing. I don't do a lot of pre-listing inspections, which I think people should do them, but we can talk about that later.
Sure.
The majority of the work, is you're buying a house, you call me, you have a 5 to 15 day inspection window, and you want me to go in there and go through it from top to bottom, and let's see if there's some things that need to be repaired, replaced, and negotiated, so that you have the ammunition to go back with them.
Is it by law? That's not the right word.
No, home inspections are not required. They are
they're not required. So a bank does not require you to have an inspection for a mortgage.
No, it's insanity, but for some reason
that doesn't make
appraisal is
right. And appraisals, that's I looked at 3 houses on your street and they're all about the same, and I'm like, wait a second, you don't know what's on the inside of my house.
Yeah. It's interesting. But it should be regulated. I think at some point it will be.
Is there legislation that has ever been proposed that's related to that? And
I don't want to say
followed where you're like, wow, this could be a good. There's red tape in every industry, right?
Of course.
Tinning, it's interstate laws, meaning it's protected because you make cars at a national level, you sell them at a state level. Every state law is different. It's impossible to manufacture on exact for every vehicle. That's a protection, right? That's great.
Yeah.
So inspection, we're talking like, okay, first off, as a buyer, to not get an inspection from a rational standpoint, absolute idiocracy from a matter of opinion. Now, what we're also going to talk about is how the dynamic in buyer and seller market has been volatilely from the high of the highest peak to the low of the lowest low in the last 4 years in Central Florida.
Yeah, it's wild.
And how that affects your relationship in that process with, for example, when we purchased, I didn't have to be the highest bidder. I had to be the best buyer.
Sure.
And part of being the best buyer is understanding that seller doesn't want to hear, I'm going to drop my one, a damn lick out of your mouth about your little stipulations about whatever's found. If everything's reasonable and agreeable, you're going to move forward. And that was part of our clause. We said, we're getting one, but the sale is not contingent on it. It's just the house isn't super old. The house is 6-7 years old. We're fairly confident we're not going to find like a molded out roof or whatever, something weird. I don't even know what it'd be.
A sinkhole.
Whatever it may be. I really want to get your insight on just like how that has gone the last few years. Like what do you see? A SWOT analysis? What's happening, man?
I mean, I think
Florida's wild.
Yeah, COVID, really flipped the industry on its ear. And it wasn't just Florida. I mean, it was nationwide.
Right.
And I mean, if you're just speaking from an inspection standpoint, or just a contingency standpoint, I mean, obviously 21, 22, the market just went insane. Every house that hit for sale in any of these hotter markets like Florida, Texas, Arizona, where people were fleeing the New York, New Jersey, California states.
Yeah.
Every time a house would hit the market, within 24 hours, it had 5 to 9 offers on it. And the first 4 offers were cash, and they were all willing to do no contingencies. So yeah,
for 30% more than the asking price.
For over asking price.
Assuming a properly priced, house.
Yeah.
Do you deal with in that situation? Do you deal with a lot of you say cash buyers? Are these just people just looking to scoop up a house like a flipper, or are these actual people wanting to move there so they want to get?
During that specific time, it was a variety. I would say a big portion were these investment companies. You had your BlackRocks and your Vanguards, and all of these things were just suddenly trying to scoop up all the residential real estate in the United States,
right?
And widen their portfolios. So you had that going on, and then you just had people from, like I said, New York, New Jersey, California, who sold a 1,200 square foot house for $1.2 million there, and they can come to Florida and buy a 5,000 square foot house for, at the time, $580,000 to $700,000, and they say, yeah, cash. You're 600 grand under the cash we have in our pocket. Let's do it. You want 30 grand over? No problem. We're in.
Right. Sure. Well, us Floridians are just struggling because it was just ridiculous.
It had nothing to do with you Floridians, did it?
No, this was either investment companies or out of state buyers, and it really. What it did is it pushed the middle class out of being able to buy a home here for and I think we're going to see that start to normalize in 2025. Prices are down about 10% right now, which is, I know people don't want to hear me say this, but it's a good thing. And it's making things adjust a little bit. Interest rates, even though they're at a 6.25 or whatever right now, it's actually a healthy interest rate. That's what they should be. These 2% interest rates and things are a fallacy. That's not reality. I mean, Zach, you're old enough to know what I mean by this. With inflation and things of that nature, there has to be some type of a steady interest rate that's realistic,
right? Sure.
That makes this kind of stuff work. So the interest rate isn't. I don't think it's going to have any massive changes in the next year. If I'm wrong, whatever. But I think people just need to get their heads back on straight with how the industry works. And it's getting there. I'm seeing some normalcy. 2025 already, just January and February alone, I'm seeing, people saying, oh yeah, we have a 15-day inspection window. And I'm, oh, wow. Okay, cool. Because we all kind of gotten in that, like, hey, can you inspect this tomorrow? And I'm just like,
no,
but you have to, because that's where the industry changed to. So we were just having to do that. But I think there's still a little bit of a weird bubble coming that I talked to you about, Derek, at the shop that day, where I think that there's a lot of people who cashed in their kids' college funds to pay over for a house they couldn't afford, to take a mortgage payment that they couldn't afford, that didn't get an inspection, or even that are now need a roof or AC or water heater or all three, and they can't afford it. And the insurance company won't continue to give them insurance until they do replace it, because, everybody knows Florida insurance is out of control right now. And they're calling 15, 16, 17-year roofs, 15-year water heaters. They want them thrown in the landfill, whether they work or not. Same with air conditioning. It's ridiculous. And so you have people that can't afford to replace the items, so their insurance is dropping them. Then the mortgage company says, you don't have insurance. And they say, well, we can't get insurance because we can't put a new $20,000 roof on the house. And so the mortgage company says, no problem. We'll drop this $600 extra payment on top of your mortgage payment and put insurance on it for you. And people say, I can't afford the mortgage payment I already signed up for. So I think there's a bubble coming where people are going to walk away from houses because of that, where they've.
So you think it's going to be back like 2000 and
no, it won't be 08 crazy.
8?
Yeah, it won't be 08 crazy. That was a different kind of bubble, but I just think that there's going to be a surplus of people that can't afford.
I think you're right.
The house that they're in and the repairs that are needed, and I don't know. Maybe I'm just biased and being.
No, you're not. You're not. I'm a prime example right here, Chris. We talked about this a little bit, and kind of the buying. I bought in my hunt for homes was April to May 2022. That was the peak of the pre-interest rate spike New York BlackRock investor frenzy.
Yes.
Okay, and guess what? The house we rented for a year when we moved down here, we had a lease till June. In April, they said, you're great tenants. I know you'd be happy to be here another year because the market is what it is, but we got to sell the house because it's worth 2.5 times of what it was built. And I said, you suck, and I don't blame you. So
Yeah.
hunt started, and we were so lucky. It was so much work, but we probably only went through 10 to 15 homes, and usually this is how it went. Interested in the home, meet the realtor there. 4 or 5 of them go to an open house a day later. Okay? We're
Yeah.
talking a ranch, or I shouldn't say ranch because we don't live up north, but a single story with a pool built in 95, 2,800 square feet. What would have been a $300,000 house at the time should have been a 450. At the time, got appraised at 6 and was listed for 550. You go to the open house, you say, hey, this is 6. What would they think if I came in at 7, 720, over 100 grand over? And the response in the listing realtor would be like, well, we've already had in the first 20 minutes 3 cash offers for 850. So, excuse me while I go to the bathroom to chuckle, and then we'd say, have a great day.
Yeah.
Okay. The only one we got, we put an offer on, and like I said, we were not the we were a good bidder. We weren't the top bidder. We were the best buyer.
Right.
And I've done enough home. I'm only 39, but I've bought 4 or 5 homes and worked with 6 or 7 realtors now, and I've flipped a couple here and there enough to know that in that time, if that person's got to get out or wants to sell,
Right.
you got to be the sure shot. Your agent's got to know their agent. Your bank's got to
Right.
know their bank. They all got to be
Yeah.
talking. They got a need to get out. You got an easy way. You're a sure shot in. It's going to happen right now. And that was one of those quick 5-day inspection windows,
Yeah,
or
you got lucky. You got lucky.
we got lucky, and I was fully self-employed. So getting a mortgage when you're self-employed versus W-2 goes from
Right.
about 35 documents to 69 was the
Yeah.
number I had to submit. 69 financial documents. Okay. Most work I've ever done to get a mortgage. And my point of rambling is that I can't imagine what you've seen in the last 4 years in terms of your entire career. Have you been doing this your whole life?
I mean, I've been around construction and real estate my whole life. Yeah, I've been in a home inspection for in this industry 21 years now.
Okay, so let me ask you: has the last 4 years been more volatile than the last 15, 16 prior combined? Or would you say, well, other than 08, right? That was just an absolute.
08 was a crash, though. That's different. Like there were
Mhm.
mistakes, just very blatant mistakes were made. They were just lending money to anybody with a heartbeat, and it bit them in the ass, and it crashed. You know what I mean? And it was just whether it was planned or not, whatever. But this was different because with the pandemic and nobody expected all these. It was like state by state. Irrationalities going on and people going, oh, we can go here and, oh, we won't have to do this.
Right.
We can do that. So the way the frenzy came together was very crazy. Yeah. I haven't dealt with a market like that. I mean, in 2021, I think I probably did 53% less work than I did in a normal year. And in 2022, it was probably still 40% down. And it was just because everybody was waiving home inspection. And it was just that thing where like realtors, suddenly everybody ran out and got their realtor's license because anybody that was a realtor was suddenly making $250,000. They were going to make a 6-figure year without even knowing what they were doing. All you had to do was get a listing. And unfortunately, that situation kind of turned.
Here we go. He's getting naked.
Hey.
Sorry, pardon me while I.
Now we know what happened to the industry.
Funny story, Chris. I actually in 2019. So I was in the automobile industry from 92 on and worked my way up. And in 2017, I had to have life-changing surgery. I had to have brain surgery, which made me have to stay home for a little while. And I decided I didn't want to go back and work 6 days a week and, You know, even as general
Smart,
manager,
smart.
be the opening, closing guy, and all this other things. So I got in 2019. I was able to go back to work full time. Late 18, 19. I got into the moving industry. I was a sales rep for a moving company, and I remember because we were considered essential, just probably like you were during the
Yeah,
pandemic. I remember people were moving in and out of Florida like it was like madness.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of the sad stories we heard were people who just couldn't afford it anymore. Were literally going back home to live with their family because they just couldn't live here anymore. Been in Florida 20 something years and they had to belly up and go.
Yep.
But they sold their house for ridiculous, you know.
Yeah.
And then there's other people who saw what was going on and took advantage of it and just put their house up for sale and said, let's see where the chips land.
Yeah.
And then, you know, but I mean, I moved a lot of people. I mean, we moved a lot of people.
Sure.
To the point there was actually, I remember during just before I left the industry, late 21, there was so many moves going on, we couldn't get trucks into Florida fast enough to move the people. They were on wait lists. They were on wait lists. And I worked for a large, huge national company.
Yeah.
And, you know, it wasn't like we were just like Billy Bob, Jim Bob's, you know, junk in a truck. It was, you know, a big company that moved you all over. And they couldn't get trucks into Florida. They could not pick up people. And the truck drivers literally held the people by the cojones and said, you're going to do whatever I tell you and you'll pay whatever I tell you. And they would pick their stuff up, take it, you know. Luckily, the company I worked for was legit, but I heard there was a lot of these hostage situations where they take this stuff over. They're moving to Vegas. Well, it's in storage in Vegas, so now you owe us another $1,000, you know, stuff like that. But that being said, that was the peak. But at the same time, coming into Central Florida, or maybe just Florida in general, there was 1,100 people moving in a day.
Yeah.
We were I think us and Texas and
Tennessee.
Who what?
Tennessee.
No. It was us and Texas were the number 1 or 2 states people moved into.
Correct.
And out of, and the only things that held us higher than out of was New York and California at the time.
Correct.
People were running like scared from those states.
Yep.
But I saw things which you tell me that most mortgages don't require a inspection. It is insanity because I've been in some homes and I'm like, dude,
it'll never make sense. Yeah, it'll never make sense.
And I would, if I was an insurance company, I would demand an inspection. I'm not insuring it.
They only demand them if the house is 20 years old. You know, the what's called a 4-point inspection, which is something I do as well. That's just if you have a house that's 20 years or older, then your insurance company to bind insurance says, hey, we want a 4-point, which is like a condensed version of a home inspection, plumbing, electrical, roof, and AC.
I think they had to do that for mine. Mine was built in 96, but I bought it in 16. So, I mean, I don't think
still would have. Yeah, right there, though. It's I mean, you were only 10 years old at the time, but still, they might have asked for it. But yeah,
I have a feeling it has nothing to do with the insurance companies because.
No, because if I go to get new insurance, if I want to shop my insurance, the first thing they ask me for is my wind mitigation and inspection.
Yep. Wind mitigation. They want to see 4-point.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can't switch. Well,
what year is the house?
Newer. 2016.
Yeah,
that's probably why it's too new.
Yeah, my house is
only 9 years
old. Next year mine will be 20 years old. So
yeah,
gotcha.
Yeah,
now the wind mitigation will benefit you still, Derek. So you should get that done at some point. I'll swing by there and get the data for you because it lowers your annual insurance a lot.
I kind of chuckle about mine
because they're like, nice because once they found out we had the, what do you call that? Regenerative or when you return solar energy back to the net metering. Okay.
Oh yeah.
When I bought in May 2022, we put our offer in, I think, of the 14th. Or no, we put our offer in, I don't know, first week of May. Second week of May, I get a call. Hey, those 3-4 home insurance rates I gave you that were anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 a year. Yeah, all of those companies pulled out except for 3. So your 3 options now are 33, 38, or 4.
Yeah, double.
Okay, fine. That's weird. Kind of makes having solar pointless since we have to lease these panels anyway.
Yeah.
And then a year later, oh, your new rate is $5,300. And I said, hold on, listen up. I got 2 businesses and no kids, and I'm bitching.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, everybody else with no businesses and 4 kids, they can't afford this. Dear principal, dear broker, shop the out of this, because this is crazy. I get it from a financial aspect. I get it.
Why did
Everyone's
it
going
jump
through it.
up so much?
There's a couple of different reasons. I mean, obviously, just basic Mother Nature stuff. You know,
Because my insurance isn't near that much.
But you're very rural. The more rural you get, the lower it gets. The more
Unfortunately, we're not rural anymore.
Oh, I thought you said you lived out in the boonies.
He's very rural. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Chris and I are very Disney. Okay. Do you want to help?
Chris, do you know Apopka, Chris?
I do.
You know Kelly Park?
I do.
You know they're building 9,000 homes there.
I'm aware.
Yeah. So we're not rural anymore.
Not anymore. Okay.
No.
Maybe at the time. Well, then get ready for an insurance hike.
Jack,
We got a Publix right down the street from us now.
At the end of your exit, there is a rusty trailer with 3 hillbilly skeletons sitting out on the front porch with old shotguns and beer bottles. Okay.
Actually, it's not there anymore. They plowed it all down. Those houses are all gone.
Because that was creepy, man. I'm glad I don't. Well, that was almost Halloween.
Just be ready for a rate hike.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it's gone up. It's gone up.
But the other, I think another
funny
thing
but the wind mitigation.
Yeah,
I understand why they got to do it for hurricanes and everything down here, and make sure your roof that you got those. What are the cleats that they use to hold the
roof to wall straps you have.
Yeah.
There's a couple of different factors for it. Is the shape of the roof, is your roof hip, gable, how it resists wind. It's the thickness of the sheathing. It's how big the nails are, how far apart the nails are spaced, and then the way the roof to wall, is connected to the home itself, or the major things that they want you to. This whole form we fill out, it's a citizens wind mitigation form that goes back, and the insurance company bullet points through everything, and they say, okay, you get this deduction or that deduction, and for them, it's just looking at what is our level of liability for this house to have damage in a hurricane.
With that, and one of the cool things that when they find out I have a metal roof, they're like, "Oh, okay, you're good."
Yeah, metal's
we
good.
Don't have to replace that.
Yeah, it lasts a long time.
It's got a 65-year warranty, or so. I don't know.
Yeah,
I said I'll be dead. I'm not worried about it. But yeah, I mean, so what? You've been in the construction industry 20-something years. What made you get into home inspection?
So home inspection, I've been in for 21 years. I've been around.
Sorry,
yeah, no, you're fine. And I've been around construction since I was a child. I've just always been around it. My dad and I gutted houses, and it's always like it was a family thing. I got into home inspection. I mean, I went to school for computer engineering, and I don't know. I just love homes. I like the problem solving process, and I always wanted, I always try to look at something that feels like you're giving a little bit to the greater good. And, what bigger purchase do people make than a home? For most people, that is the single biggest purchase you will ever make in your life.
Agreed.
Most people. So for me, being able to go in there and be a kind person and a genuine person and go through the whole process with somebody and, really give them, a good feel for what they're doing and take some of that stress away of feeling like, hey, somebody that really knows what they're doing has looked at this place for me where I'm going to put my kids and my dog and my wife from, and I don't feel like there's safety hazards or, any of those things. I enjoy it. I have never gotten tired of doing it. I do it. The only thing I ever get tired of is just fighting for work. But the actual job itself, I really enjoy doing it.
I have a friend who owns a home inspection company, and I ask him, does it ever get old going up in an attic in the middle of summer? And he's like, yeah, that's the crappy part of the job.
Of course. But I mean, for me, I don't know. I'm old, like, I'm old school. I grew up on a farm in Connecticut. I grew up like an Amish kid. So for me, I'd rather be out physical doing stuff than not. And you just got to plan your work. If we're having that 98-degree heat spells or something, try to book them in the morning. And but worst case scenario, you get up there, you get hot for a minute, and you move on.
Right.
I enjoy it.
How does that work with your? You do like to be out. You are extroverted. You're not I'm assuming you're not a heavy admin guy, right? But you have to make these reports. Has reporting become pretty streamlined, like template, like can you use AI for any of that, or do you do it? Do you have digital? Do you use an iPad when you're on the job and that begins populating it? How does that make?
There's
How does your
several.
life go after that?
Yeah, there's tons of software. I mean, I've been doing home inspections since we used to take notes on paper, but now there's a whole bunch of different softwares you can pick from for where it's right on the phone and you're just on site. You say, oh, there's a broken window, and you go to the section windows, you take a picture, you put it in there, you can draw an arrow to the break, and then you even have pre-built comments and a lot of stuff like that that helps it flow. So, you know, on site. But a lot of it is just like anything in life, whether you're, you know, if you're a mechanic, you know, you don't go into an engine if you don't know your way around. It's just with the home for me, I know construction, I know houses, and I know, you know, everything about all the systems of the home. So when I'm going through a house, sometimes I have to, you know, you have to explain to people like, it doesn't look like anything's happening, but I'm, you know, my brain is doing everything and I'm taking pictures. And then when they get the, you know, 50 to 70 plus page report with photos and arrows and all the things, and I go over it all with them. Oh, wow. I'm so glad we had you come. You know, this is, you know, but yeah, it's a cool process. But yes, to answer your question, there are great softwares now.
Is it wild to you for someone to say that? Like, oh, I can't believe all you did. I mean, maybe I'm being sheltered or unusual or spoiled.
All the
Is it
above.
You would love that. Isn't it
100%.
unusual? Let's say a 35-year-old couple comes up to you and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know you did all that. I can't believe there's all this info." Do you feel people should understand? Do you feel, since the average home buying age is going up and obviously the cost of living is rising so much faster than income for kids coming out of school, the rational education they're not receiving for finance and for real estate and running a home, do you find it more and more strange when you see like a mid-30s couple say, "I didn't know you did all this," or "You didn't know there was all these aspects to your house"? Do you ever feel like saying, you've never, you know, is this your first rodeo, and all of a sudden you realize it probably is?
I mean, it's common. It's very common. I mean, we're all very familiar with the education system does not teach people basic finance and, you know, and these things, you know, it just doesn't exist. But I will say, to be honest with you, in the last 10 to 15 years, I think, let's say 10, 15 is a big span. I think the younger buyers are actually becoming more educated. They're more savvy. They're more savvy. And I get them, you know, good questions, and sometimes better than the middle-aged buyers.
Do you think that's from them doing more research though? Because if the average age of owning a home is going up, they obviously, okay, remember the first time you owned a home? Like the first time I had like 100% my own home, no one co-signed, no flipping, whatever. I think I was 22 or 3. It was a condo, so there was nothing outside.
Flex.
Not really, right? You guys probably were younger, but the point is, like, I remember that condo was built at like 91 or 92, and I bought it in like 08 or 09, just post reset. You know, I got the whole Obama thing. It was cool. And it went through its first life cycle. About that 20-year life cycle, about 2 or 3 years later. And that was a year or two in my life that at the time I felt like hell, because I didn't have money and I had a lot of time, but it allowed me to do a lot of the fixing on my own or hire licensed people that I know to work with me to save money, like replacing a water heater, replacing a full central natural gas AC and furnace, fixing every part in a dryer, you know, changing out a dishwasher, fixing a disposal, rebounding a microwave, just, you know, things that are relatively simple. But when you say you're surprised at how educated the kids are, I feel like they're not getting that till about 10 years later now.
When I say more educated, I
know
don't
what I
mean
mean?
that. I didn't say more hands-on. I would say that's the opposite.
Okay, so we're separating, we're compartmentalizing.
That's opposite. Like in the tech prep world of people coming out of, whether they're coming out of high school or college or whatever. I mean, we all know that there's a massive shortage in this country for technical work, you know, whether it be plumbers, electricians, or even handy people and things that can do the stuff that you were just talking about. I just mean that they've all been born with a phone in front of their face. So they do their research. I find a lot of times when I get to the house, you know, they're asking me, good questions. You know, they're asking me good questions. They're asking me about the roof or what's, you know, hey, does this house have polybutylene? It's in the right year. And I think, yeah, you guys did your research. You did your research. Which, you know, yeah. But as far as like, could they change a garbage disposal? I don't know. Probably not as many as from our, probably not as many from our as Ken from our generation.
There was a time where I could literally listen to my furnace at night, go, and I'd be like, oh, the bearings in the inducer motor are going bad.
Yeah.
Good thing I have a spare from eBay. I'll change that out. But if we get to the secondary heat exchanger, I know darn well I ain't messing with that because I don't want to die tonight. You know, there was a time, and that was that first life cycle where, you know, you're so engaged in that, in the guts of that home.
Yeah.
You go beyond the topical, you go beyond the drywall, you go beyond the backsplash, the paint.
Yeah, there's a lot less of that.
You're juicing in the guts, man, because you know what? One, you don't know, and two, you don't got the dough. And you're it's like, what do I do? Well, I guess I'm here all night until I can get this this furnace to work, which is creepy if you're up north or something. You know, you're like, I need this to work. The sun's going down, baby. It's do or die. And, you know, I was lucky. We had a little bit of this. You know, we were just getting into the YouTube area, but not super much. I mean, I was still mostly like, I had the luxury of looking up like PDF manuals and stuff online, but we didn't have a whole heap of YouTube yet till maybe like 12, 13, 14. And then it was kind of like everything was getting on there, Repair Clinic and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's actually a hell of a lot more data now than when you were a kid. But for some reason, that data, to me, it just doesn't seem to transpose to people because I just don't feel like there's a lot of people that know how to fix anything.
Because you have to do it. You have to do it. Like
they don't want to. They don't want
to. You have to
because it's so convenient just to pay someone.
Go to Lowe's on
correct.
Saturday morning for the 2 tools you're missing.
Yeah.
I mean, I went to this is a while ago. And I'm not a car mechanic by any means, but I went to a store to get my oil changed and everything, and they said you need to get your cabin filter and air filter changed. I was like, all right, well, how much is that? And it was like $90 or something. So I look it up on eBay. I'm like, let me hold off on that.
Yeah,
I
$14.
I bought them for like $9.97 for 2 of them or whatever, and got them and went on YouTube and go, oh, all right, duh, I know how to do that. You know, I didn't know where the cabin filter was. I'm not gonna lie, I had to figure that out.
Really?
You know, yeah, look
at man.
No, my Nissan Kicks was behind down on the floor behind where the shifter is, and yeah. And I'm not, as we all know, I'm not a small guy, so it must have looked ridiculous seeing my feet hanging out of the car, flapping around trying to get in there. But I did it, and rather than me pay somebody else $99, I spent $12 and probably a couple curse words later, and got it done. But Chris,
they're big into that with when you have a vehicle that's not brand new, right? I mean, like I mean, it's fun. Like it's harder with the newer stuff because you can't even touch it anymore, but like if you're going 10, 15, 20 years back, it's almost
I would even say farther back.
I mean, I don't know, that Highlander that you just tinted for me, it's a 2013. And I just put new struts on the front and back, new rotors, brake pads. I do all that stuff.
Oh, I thought you meant like engine work,
right?
Yeah, I do. Huh?
You go get it balanced though, right?
You have to. Yeah, you got to go get an alignment afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah.
Derek, I thought you meant engine work because I was like, man, no, there's nothing like 60s and 70s motor. We just drop a 350 in and out.
I'll give you that.
Nowadays, I open the hood and I'm like, what is that?
Yeah, a lot of computer stuff now.
Yeah, and look, there's stuff at the house that I can do, no problems, right? But
prove it.
I'm not an AC guy. I'm not going to go fix my air conditioning. I have a guy who takes care of that, But if I had a home inspector come over and he's like, dude, you need to change out your air filter more often or whatever, your air conditioning's going to run more efficiently, whatever it is, something simple, great. You tell me my electrical system in my house is shot, I'm calling somebody because I'm not going to be that kid with the plugs walking into the wire.
I think depending on our capability and the complexity, we do kind of analyze the cost. Like filters are really, listen, you got to come at things from two levels. So I get this with people with tint all day long, right? Like, I don't want to pay $99 for window. Okay, well, then do it yourself. It's going to suck and be fine with it. Or go with someone who doesn't guarantee the work. I don't care, but you're not going to tell me you're not going to pay my over, because my overhead is what guarantees these things, right? So $90
Right.
for a cabin and air filter, sure, that might only have been 15, 20 bucks, but that's still 20% cost of material, right? And it's going to take someone, the labor obviously is extremely low because it's only going to take them 15 minutes at most, but they have to bill at a higher amount. They have a reason for charging that. So it's a simple task and you have the capacity, capability to do it. You can just look it up and do it. Just like a capacitor on your AC, or, you know, just the real basic stuff we're talking about. But like, for instance, on my unit, my AC unit is 7 or 8 years. When I have them come every twice a year to look at it. You know, I want it cleaned and all that kind of
Yep.
stuff. And the coils. And, you know, we had this last time where I'm like, you know, what do I do? Just leave this thing alone and let it go another 5 years and just spend another 25K and get a brand new unit? Or should I like put a little bit into it? And they presented me like, hey, a UV light is this. We can flush the coil. We can do this type of stuff. And I looked, okay, and I'm like, all right, you're gonna charge me, I don't know, it really wasn't that much. Maybe 600 bucks or something, UV light install. And I look up the part and I'm like, what's 150 bucks? And I'm like, you know, it's gonna take this guy. I always give it the rational man test. Is it gonna take him a couple hours? Yes, I should be paying that because it's gonna take me 2 days.
Right.
Versus a capacitor on the AC. The last time I had that done, I thought, oh man, that's a $30 part. It takes 10 minutes. I bet you this is going to cost me 150 bucks. I get it. I could do it, but no problem. They come and hand me a bill for $460. And I'm like, bro, you make 800 bucks an hour. Damn, I should have done that myself. Like,
Yeah.
I want the experience to do the experience, but there's always a point for everyone where it's like, it ain't worth it, man. Like,
There's a threshold.
It's tough to say it. It's like if I charge you, it's like instead of like $400 and some dollars for like the top end tint on your sides and rear, it's like if we charge like $2,500.
Yeah.
You'd be like, I love you, dude. This is great. Even let's say all shops charge that. At that point, you'd be like, you know what? I'll probably still learn how to do it.
Yeah, something.
You know,
Well, you know, I run into that.
I'd be homeless.
There's just a point where you would just spend it anyway. There's a point though where it's like you're comparing the cost of the labor, the overhead of the business, the professional, the skill set, the complexity of the job versus your time, your ability, what it's going to take out of you to try and do it. And I always just compare, like, if this makes sense where they're making 150 bucks an hour, they deserve to make 150 bucks an hour because it's a skilled guy.
You make me think of something interesting here that you just segued into something very, I don't know if you meant to, but it's an interesting side of that with the home inspection industry that all home inspectors will say, but it's crazy because like here you are purchasing again, what is the most expensive thing most people will ever buy in their lives, right?
House. Yeah.
Yeah. And we, the home inspector, are the cheapest paid person in the entire process. Yet to me, we're the heart surgeon of your home purchase. You know,
but
like,
are you scrutinized from a price point though?
Oh, I don't know.
Probably,
it's very
little
interesting
for
to me.
that. Like, do people shop? So what you're saying too is when someone comes to me with a $100,000 car and I offer them tint for $229, they call me crazy, and I'm like, what? What? So when you're saying someone buys a $600,000 house and your inspection is going to be $600, are you subjected to a lot of competition, price shopping, and scrutiny? Because to me, it was more like, no, the realtor recommended this inspector. I know, okay, great, he's 6, maybe someone's 520, maybe someone's 7. But
I wasn't really going from the angle of there is competition like any industry, yeah,
sure.
But that's the thing that drives me a little bit crazy about the industry is just that, like, and I have to be careful what I say because realtors are my lifeblood. But like, you have a realtor who is taking you to a house and they do a lot of work and they're writing contracts, and if you have a good realtor, they're looking out for your
good realtors are doing a lot of work.
They're looking out for your best interests legally. They're doing a lot of stuff. But I still say, you got let's say a $400,000 house, they're getting 3% for doing what they do, and we're getting $500, for going through and telling you the roof, the electric, the plumbing,
you have more technical capability and they have more, and they are just a matchmaker. And unfortunately, that's very true in a lot of industries too. Like if you have B2B sales, the guy selling the cloud solutions like a madman's making 400K, and then the data engineers are making 120.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And who's the smarter person? Obviously this guy, but sometimes when you're in a position to, and you know what though, I'm gonna say this one thing. I totally agree with you, but I also say this. I met my first real realtor when we bought this house, who wasn't a hobbyist. And I don't mean and I don't mean I didn't have career realtors before. They were career big name realtors, but the amount of work, and you know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I do.
Daniel?
I do.
The amount of work that she put in for us to get this done in that market, with the communication and just the utter level of systemic, professional, punctual, step by tiny little step, which our house, by the way, for her is small peanuts. She doesn't, it doesn't matter. I have never seen a realtor work like that.
Right.
And I was like, you should, I'm happy about that. You know what I'm saying? Like versus a hobbyist where I'm like, dude, what the hell are they doing? They're sending it to the office, the documentation. The market's so hot, they don't even have to show it. They just got a call saying, hey, this person will buy your house. And then we didn't even do pictures, and here, have 30 grand.
Yeah. Well, that's for me, it's just, it's if you were getting, like I was saying before, if you were getting heart surgery, you know, you don't want the cheapest surgeon, you want the best. You want the person that knows their way around. They know exactly what's going on. They've done tons of heart surgeries. It's not their first heart surgery. They know where everything is and what to expect. And if something gets weird, they've seen it 50 times weird before. They know that weird. They know how to deal with it. Like, to me, that's what a home inspector is. And it's just, sometimes it just blows my mind how undervalued the home inspection service is. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that the realtors service is overvalued, but you know, they make an awful lot of commission compared to what we make. And for me personally, I think a home inspection, if you had to give me a choice between having somebody inspect the house or unlock the door for me, I'll take the inspector.
So here's a question for you.
How can inspectors and realtors work together to add more value and increase their pay together? Who's ever thought? You can't tell me you don't have times where you sit up in bed obsessing over a better world of your career in a bigger picture, you know, in a collaborative environment where you're like, hey, what do I do to make sure that sale goes through to get 0.5% of that?
See, I'm different. I think.
Oh, I know that.
The real correction that needs to happen, and there are home inspectors that will fight me over this. I think that it just needs to be just like an appraisal. The bank assigns it, you go out and do it, and that's it. Realtors need to be completely taken out of the home inspection equation. That's my opinion, because it's just at the end of the day.
Can a realtor make you or break you?
Break you. And both, the 100%. It's not where 95% of our business comes from, if not more. And it's so, and I think that's
what I meant by that is could they screw up a deal when you're in the house and you did the inspection? The realtor's like, that's not a big deal. Don't worry about it.
Well, they're not ruining anything for me. I guess a realtor would look at it the exact opposite of what you said, is that home inspectors make or break it. Like you can have a bad home inspector that it just has horrible communication. And you can have a problem that's not a big deal. Like, let's say you have a faulty GFI in a bathroom, you know, the little button switch on your light switch in the, on your plug in the bathroom over the sink. And you can have an inspector come out and say, oh, you got a big safety hazard in this bathroom. And, somebody could get electrocuted and killed in here if you don't get that fixed. Where a buyer who doesn't know anything that he's talking about, that it's just, a $30 plug that needs to be replaced, you could literally scare a buyer off. And there are home inspectors that do that. And those, they're called deal killers. They're more interested in being smart or looking like they're important or, Inspector Gadget or whatever the heck it is, than just doing their job and being intelligent about their communication, which is, one of the things I pride myself on. But realtors run our industry. That is where all of our work comes from. And it's
okay. Oh, now
it's crazy.
Here's another question, I guess, a side question. Maybe this is ignorant or not, but
no.
When you inspect a home, do you inspect the entire property, everything on the property, or is it the home structure itself?
It's typically the home. We do exterior, and exterior will expand to, let's say, grading. Like, does a property all graded towards the house so I know water is going to pool up against the foundation? That's something I would talk about.
Sure.
I don't really get too big into arbitering and things of that nature, but if there's vegetation against the house or touching the house, we're going to make notes on that and say, hey, this is damaging or could be damaging a home and causing problems here. I do pool, certain things on the exterior. If it's a wood frame house and I see tons of piles of wood, I'm also a licensed termite inspector in the state of Florida. So, I'll make notes on things like that. Like, hey, there's a dead tree a foot from the house. It's full of termites. We need, get that thing cleared out of here, or they're going to find their way to the house, things like that. But for the most part, structure, unless somebody asks, hey, there's this other thing we want you to look at. Would you look at this, other small structure? But typically it's all structure. Yeah.
I mean, okay. So right there, to be the dumb guy making money, you just got to get into termite inspection, walk around my house, tell me you got to move all the wood chips away from it and collect your $1,200 and treat it, man. I mean, let's go.
I don't do treatment. I just do inspection.
Well,
so what about if there's like a mother-in-law suite or a pool house? Would that be part of the structure?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's where just kind of square footage comes into play. Typically the county, if there is some type of other living space on the property, it will all be included on the county website when you do your research before you go out and do the inspection. So you can
often when you're doing your inspection, you find stuff that's not on the county or not legit, never was, permitted.
Yeah,
obviously, right?
Yeah.
Like a bedroom in a garage,
That stuff will come up. You'd be amazed at the amount of roofs that come back unpermitted.
Really?
Oh yeah. People will, somebody will come by and offer somebody that doesn't know any better and say,
that's not super surprising that's one of the highest ticket items in a house, and we're in an area with
it happens a lot.
A very large, diverse, let's say, population of immigrants, documented or not. That's if the problem exists, what he just talked about, where we can't afford our mortgages, and someone says you need a $24,000 roof in so and so's, little truck.
We'll do it for 15.
Yeah,
or like shingles plus 1,500 of labor, and then
no,
right,
I mean,
it's crazy. That exists here, man. The cheap, the barter mentality is not.
Well,
so yes,
it's most cultures have the barter mentality. I'm sure you find stuff all over the place.
Yeah, in my line of work, I do fences,
right,
and I find more in the older neighborhoods, not so much the new stuff. New stuff seems to be pretty legit lately, but in the older neighborhoods, you're finding, well, my neighbor put this fence up. I go, okay, well, it's 1.5 feet over onto your property, so you can tear it down. Well, I need my neighbor's permission. You don't. And we're going to get a permit, and we're going to show them exactly where the property line is. And, and they're like, oh, I don't know if I want to go to battle. I'm like, dude, he's got 2 feet of your property. No.
Yeah.
Under principle, you should come out and knock it down yourself. And I find that stuff all the time where people, and I'm sure, like you're saying, Derek, they want to circumvent the system, and fine, you can put the roof on without a permit. Go ahead. I'll save my money there. I don't lose a lot of jobs because of that, but I do lose jobs when, it's me out there, a big name brand fence company, and then Chuck in a truck comes along and he's $5,000 cheaper, and he doesn't have to worry about permitting. And I'm like, okay, go ahead and see what your HOA says.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Yeah. So I get it. I mean, because we actually, at one point in time, we were thinking about turning the garage into a bedroom, a part of it anyway.
Sure.
And I had a guy who was willing to do it. And I was like, so what's the permit process? He's like, you don't need it. I'm like, I don't think you're right. I think we'll be going a different route.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest things you need permits for are typically just electrical, plumbing, roofing, those types of things where you need a licensed contractor to get certain things done at a certain level.
Correct.
In the state
I just had a retention wall put in, and it was actually a giant retention wall. It was 109 feet worth of retention, and they had to do it with the corrugated vinyl.
Yeah.
Because my property line is small and they couldn't build a regular wall or would have fell over. So they had pounding, 12-foot panels, 6 foot into the ground, and 6 foot had this anyway.
Yep.
And that had to get permitted. But the other side, I put up just a little retention wall, a little 4-foot decorative wall, and no permit needed.
Nothing.
Yeah. So I get it.
I don't really deal with permits a lot as a home inspector. It's not really my job. I mean, the only permits I really look up are roofing permits for the wind mitigation and the 4-point. And also if I see electrical or AC permits and things, I'll grab them and throw them in the file just so when I'm doing the 4-point, I can say, hey, yeah, the AC was updated in 2021 or things of that nature. But
Okay,
it's not something I report on.
When you go into a house, do you have the floor plan in front of you before you go in? Is it all nothing? I mean, it's not like you surprise yourself when you go in.
I mean, I can see the house outlines on the property appraiser site because I pull that out for wind mitigation to measure the exterior of the home. But no, for the most part, it's, I mean, I know going there, it's a 4.2 or whatever, because I have to get all that data to set up the inspection.
Zach, I'm going to guess with Chris, he's probably familiar with every builder who built every home in every one of these. Like if you live where I live, Chris would say, "Oh, that's a Cal Atlantic floor plan number 2 sold to Lennar." I know it's. I know your master would be on, either the north or the south. Your neighbors is on the north, yours is on the south. I guarantee.
I see a lot of the same stuff.
You've probably seen a few things.
Yeah, Florida.
He probably knows the floor plan when he walks up to the lot.
Well, they're all just all of them are just a lot very similar too. I mean, you just your split plans and your.
My point is, we have been mass home builder central for. I mean, these aren't the largest builders in the nation. I think when we were in Michigan, we had ours done by Eastbrook, which at the time they finally had refined and become a little bit better. But they were nationwide, just massive. But if you take like Ryan, Lennar, and MI, and
Toll Brothers,
Toll Brothers,
whatever.
Huge.
Yeah,
Taylor Morrison or whatever. They're huge Central Florida wise, right? I mean, like
those are
big, and
they're
everybody,
they're national,
right?
Yeah.
Lennar's huge. Yeah. They got to be one of the biggest.
Yeah,
and everybody, it seems to be everything's getting cookie cut.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just slapping stuff together. So I used to live up in Stony Brook Hills, up in Mount Dora, and I was in a house in Stony Brook West.
Yeah.
And I'm driving through the neighborhood. I was like, oh my gosh, it's the same freaking neighborhood.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no different. Every house looks the same color, everything. And they say Stony Brook East looks the same. And I'm just like, oh, my wife and I, we got lucky. Our house we found is in a non-HOA neighborhood, and it's not a cookie cut. But they're very similar in my neighborhood. But it just, I pull into some of these neighborhoods, and you were talking about Islesworth or Keens Point or something like that, King's Landing. And, I look at these homes. I was there the other day, multi-million-dollar homes.
Sure.
Where? Oh, up in
Islesworth.
Oh, Islesworth, yeah.
Yeah. And you can reach out and wash your neighbor's back from your window.
Some of them are really close. Yeah. It's crazy.
If I'm going to spend $8 million, I'm not living that close to somebody.
Yeah.
Give me land. So, okay. So here's a question. You go out, when you do a home inspection, say, if it was a farm, would everything be included, or just the actual house structure? If they were selling the whole property,
you mean like if it had a barn and different things of that nature? Yeah. So if
studio
there's
all that's the workshop,
outbuildings and things of that nature, that you can inspect anything you want. They want you to. You just charge for it. Just
do most people get them inspected if they're buying the whole thing?
If there's I always tell them if there's electric and plumbing in there, let's put eyes on it.
Okay.
If it's a raw shed, then who cares?
Right. Yeah. A little tin shed in the backyard.
If you have a barn and it's got a, plumbing and electric, let's make sure it's not going to burn down and cause problems, and that you're going to pass, inspection for insurance and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So what's the most sketchiest or shady thing you've seen?
Oh, come on. You're stealing all my good questions.
Okay. you asked me, Derek.
No, I want to hear sketchiest, and then I'm going to ask another category of one of. This is really important before you fade off. I'm
doing great. I'll
flu medication, and before the other guy falls asleep from it being past his bedtime, we have to get into.
Am I falling asleep? Come on.
We have to get into what?
Stay with me. Don't make me put my glasses on. We have to get into the craziest, the top. The sketchiest, the largest home the craziest people, the worst
There's so many.
animal
There's so
infestation.
many. There's
Let's
so many.
go. We have to categorize. This is why anyone's going to listen, right? Let's
okay.
let's hear the outlier stories, man.
Okay, so
Starting
the
with
shadiest, like,
Jack-
yeah, what is the
Yeah.
scariest, shadiest crap you've been in? You know, you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm out of here. And Derek leaves. See you later, buddy.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I mean, I've definitely had some hairy moments. I've had scary moments where the police have been called, where I was at a house and a group of gentlemen were out in the front yard looking in my vehicle, looking at me, and I opened the door and kind of just hit them with the "Can I help you?" and they said nothing to me, and one of them clearly had a firearm on him, and I shut the door and locked the door. As I was shutting the door, I said, "I call the police," and they were not phased. They kept looking in my van. I saw them at the time. I had a van. They were pulling on the handle to open it.
What part were they? One of the parties involved, or were they?
No. They were just
no. It's just a neighborhood. Sounds like
neighborhood group. Yeah,
Ah.
and so yeah, they just slowly walked down the street, and the police came. Several police came, and I don't know. It was not a great area, and so they said
Pine
that
Hills, perhaps.
I don't know.
sounds
I don't
like
remember.
sounds like you were in my territory.
I don't remember where I was, but I will tell you that one of the officers very nicely said, "How much time do you have left?" And I said, "About 35, 40 minutes. He says, "I'm just going to park out front till you're done." I said, "Man, okay, I appreciate it." So that was a scary one. I had one that was, I've had a couple with squatters that have been pretty hairy. Yeah, where I had one where I was alone on a property, kind of out a little bit. And man, it was not cool. Like, I was in this house. It was a 2-story house. I was second floor. Bedroom was locked. I don't know why I just figured somebody because the place was vacant. And I figured somebody showing it just must have flipped the lock and then shut it. My brain, the bedroom's locked. I'll get in there in a minute. I can open a locked bedroom door with a knife or whatever,
Right.
And I'm going around continuing to do stuff on the second floor and get stuff done. And then I go back and I get a hold of the door handle, and I've made noise of it. And before I can even realize what's happened, the door rips open. And this guy's, I'm 5'9". This guy's like 6'3", no shirt, in underwear. And he just screams in my face like, "I'm taking a nap." And I just went, okay. And he was not like, he was a burly looking human. I just said, okay. And he slammed the door in my face. And
he was a squatter.
Yeah. And
Zach, do you have any admissions to make? This kind of sounds like a familiar side of someone I know.
I just turned and went down to the car nice and slow, because I just thought, like, is he going to come running back out after me again?
Yeah.
Chris, is that a job where you call the realtor and say,
no, that's the job where I call the police right away. Like,
no, but isn't there another professional party involved where you call and say, "Have a nice day, I'll be moving on from this job"?
Well, I did call the seller's realtor, because obviously the buyer's realtor has nothing to do with it. So I called the seller's agent and just said,
"Yeah, I had that happen similar."
What kind of seller's agent lists a home with a squatter in it?
Well, I think he just broke in. Like, maybe he's only been there a day. Maybe he's,
I gotcha.
Houses can sit for, a while without anybody
I actually had that happen twice. I was measuring a yard, and I almost tripped over a lady in the backyard sleeping.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, and I'm like, she's like, "I'm just taking a nap." I said, "You're fine. I'm just measuring the fence." She's like, "Okay." I'm like, "All right."
Property.
And then I'm in another yard where I'm talking to the customer on the phone, and I said, "All right, nobody's here." He's like, "No, man, the house it's condemned. There's yellow signs all over it." And, and I'm like, "All right." He's like, "Just go in the backyard." And I'm just feeling sketchy right out the gate. I didn't feel comfortable there, but I was like, "All right, I'll walk quick." And I make sure I rattle the gate so I don't get bit by a dog if there's something back there, and I'm in the backyard, and the gate had it was a wooden gate, and they put a aluminum gate latch on it, so it only had the latch on the front, so the gate
Sure.
shut and locked, and I'm locked. Now I'm stuck in the backyard.
Okay.
Well, I powered through that thing real quick. I just popped that thing open and knocked half of
How
it
are
down.
you
I didn't
selling
care.
fences to condemned homes?
It was a flipper. They wanted to tear it out and put in a new one. They were gutting the house and everything. Anyway,
Gotcha.
this lady
Okay.
comes out the front door, and she's like, "You could have knocked on the door. I would have let you in the back." I'm like, I'm talking to the owner on the phone, so obviously you're not the owner. She's like, "That's how people get shot." And I go, "Well, that's because other people shoot back." And she slammed the door, and I got in my car and drove away. I was like, "Dude, you better call the cops because you got somebody living in your house."
So follow-up question to you both: are you legally inclined to carry? Are you?
I have it concealed. Yeah, I've
I
always
do.
had concealed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
We were at a neighborhood the other
But
day.
but you're independent, Zach. You are not. Is that a permission of the job?
Okay, so allegedly, I'm not supposed to carry in the office.
Gotcha. So you just don't, quote unquote. I gotcha.
Allegedly, yeah.
I've-
But
I've done
we were at a sketchy place last week. Actually, for me, it was not sketchy. I knew the neighborhood. I know everybody in the neighborhood. They all know me. And my boss came to look at a job with me, or we're looking at something, and he's like, "Whoa, it's a little nervous here." He's like, "You packing?" I go, "You got underwear on?" He's like, "What?" I go, he's like, "Oh." I was like, "Why would you ask me? Why would you ask me a question like that?"
Where we did sales across the state in the vehicle, and the owner of our company was very conservative, but the policy was strictly, you can't have guns at work, blah blah blah. There were enough times that at the time I was driving a pretty nice Lexus SUV, and you'd be in Podunk, middle of the state. You'd stop at a gas station, people like, "Nice car." They'd see you and your partner in business suits, and we get followed and kind of weird stuff. And it didn't take long for us to say we don't really care what the policy is. We're carrying. We'd rather get fired.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
we were legally had that concealed. So. And we
They-
weren't concealing it.
were you in a
windows,
company
but,
car or your
we
car?
We were keeping it unlocked in the vehicle legally, and we're like, you know what, safety over policy. And we just disclosed to him. We may or may we just said to him, when you admit something without admitting it, like, of course we don't do that. We do what we need to do.
You don't have to let anybody know you carry.
But you hadn't made that admission, and so hey, that's what I mean. I'd rather not get shot. So
Were you driving your own car?
Yeah.
They can't tell you what you can have in your own car.
I was W-2, so whatever. Right. It was one of those things.
No. If you're driving your own car, it's at least here in Florida, because I'm an NRA certified instructor.
Point is, to me, it didn't matter. It was like,
and you don't have to tell anybody anything.
The point is the policy. It was also indirectly communicated to us that the policy was a liability statement, right?
Yeah.
It was for the shooter. It was to not get sued. And I was like,
Right.
That's where I learned that stuff. People make policies so they don't get sued. They don't make policies to be irrational.
Right.
I don't carry a gun or have ammo. They were lost in a tragic boat accident. So
okay, Chris.
Just leave it at that.
Chris.
Yes.
Largest house, neighborhood square footage. We talking Keens Point? We talking Lake Sawyer Sound? We talking Isleworth?
It'll surprise you. It'll surprise you.
Wait, are we talking standalone? Are we talking Mineola on a lake? What are we doing?
This will surprise you. The biggest.
Can we get hints?
The biggest.
Oh no, you told me this. Go.
But, yeah, the biggest one was just over 12,000 square feet.
Yep.
And of all places, it's in Davenport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense because are
it's
homes.
Yeah, it's one of those vacation. It's got like 14 bedrooms and
Yes.
12 bathrooms and pool tables and an arcade, and it was built for people to rent to go to Disney.
So I'll bet you if you go up to Ocala.
What's that?
If you go up to Summerfield or Ocala, you get to some of them horse ranches.
Yeah.
You got some big homes up
But
there.
what he's talking about is different. I'm not phased because when we moved here and we had to rent and we were looking near Disney,
right?
You find all these houses that are, even at the time, were being put as long term that were meant to be short term, and you're like, why does a 4,500 square foot house have 12 bedrooms?
Yeah, it's really crazy.
Airbnb.
And you would realize that, and you'd see like freaking Disney princesses painted on the wall, and you'd be like,
every bedroom, yeah.
Yes, this is a vacation rental.
Yeah,
and I did come across several of those in the Davenport, Poinciana areas that were kind of boony, middle of nowhere, massive complexes for people literally to come there and rent with 6, 7, 8 families.
Yeah,
Right.
builders specialize building houses like that in Four Corners over there. I mean, there's just tons of them. There's tons of them.
Would Reunion, would that be a place too, kind of in that
Yeah,
area?
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, obviously, Alworth. There's some monsters in there.
There
Keynes
is.
Point. There's some monsters. There's actually a lot. I think there's more large homes in Keynes than there is in Alworth, because
Keynes is right across the street, right?
Yeah, there's just more space.
It's huge, isn't it?
Yeah, it's more space.
What about like Heathrow?
Yeah, you get some. I mean, they're everywhere. I mean, in the most random spots, somebody,
You ever been to that neighborhood off of Holden, off of OBT?
Holden
They're $1 million homes. They're tucked away behind this dumpy neighborhood. You got to go through a gate, and then all of a sudden there's McMansions right there on the water.
Yeah. There's a lot of quirky little spots like that in Florida.
Oh, is that like off Colonial, kind of like just random?
No, it's off.
I know
OBT.
exactly. It's off of Holden. I also, there's another one of those on 50, right in Claremont there, like right when you get off the 429 and take a left on 50 there. There's like, you go down that dip where the bike riding, the whole bike.
Is that Oakland?
There's like, you just take a left at that light and it dips down to gate, and that's like 30 multi-million-dollar houses on those lakes right there, and you would just have no idea it was in there.
Is that where
that was a crazy one.
What's his name's house was? His family lived.
One
the guy who allegedly. No. I've been in one of the Backstreet Boys, or no, NSYNC's houses here. It was sold. No, the guy who. Oh my gosh! Why can't? No. This is the guy who allegedly did 9/11. They went and got him in Pakistan.
No idea.
What are you talking? Oh, Rob O'Neill.
No.
The
guy, the Middle Eastern guy with the big beard, they shot him. The Navy SEALs went and got him. Yes, he had a house here in Central Florida.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, $100. I'll bet you right now.
Woo.
I was.
I got cash, man.
It's over in Claremont area. Yeah, I was in it.
Chris.
Yes.
You know Chase Road because you go in and out of Keynes Point.
Yep.
Okay, it's pretty close to my house. You should stop by.
Okay. I mean, you just told me you have cash, so maybe I will.
For Zach,
I'm down there all the time. Actually,
I know you're creepy, man. It's always them in a conference call too. Listen. Are you familiar with Lake Butler Sound neighborhood?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the Versailles House?
Not by name.
So the Versailles House it's one of the largest houses in the United States. It's over $100 million.
Oh, I know which house you're talking about. Yeah.
I believe it's close to done. The hurricanes kind of made them redo a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
The year, I think the year prior to this one.
Yeah.
Ian, and I want so bad just to drive through that neighborhood because I know that whole area. Like I know I've seen Shaq's house. I've seen Keynes Point is beautiful. Isleworth.
Shaq's in Isleworth. Yeah.
Right. And I've seen the north side of those lakes too, where like Jeff Gelman's, the billionaire real estate developer, all that. But I want to see Lake Butler Sound so bad. Have you been in there?
Yes.
You've inspected a home in there?
Yes.
That has to be like one of your larger homes, single family homes.
Yeah, they're big. I've done.
Have you been in the one on what's it? It's on. It's going down into Windermere. It's Steven Seagal's wife's home.
I don't know the homes by people's names. But
it's right there on the curve. It's on the main street. That giant house right there.
It's that curve there. It's that curve on the main street
over here. Right over here.
Listen.
It's like one of the bigger houses in Florida, in Central Florida.
They're all huge, man.
Yeah, it's like 15,000 square feet.
Do you know when you're taking Main Street through Windermere South to leave out Chase Road there?
Yes.
And before, Shaq's house is the blue roof at the connector. Before Shaq's house, there's like the freaking like Versailles Trianon. Yeah. That's got to be one too, bro.
Yeah. I will tell you that in 21 years, I don't know that there's a neighborhood I haven't been in.
Really?
So that's a lot of years times a lot of inspections.
I mean, Orlando's huge, right? We never leave our bubble, so that's just an amazing. The most exposure I get to Orlando is driving to my shop and back, right? Because that's why I see all these houses because I either take 535 down to Chase or I go through Park on the north side of Windermere, so I go through all these places.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking, inspection wise, I'm up near, almost 8,000 inspections over the years. You know what I mean? So it's
8,000.
yeah, if not more. I mean, I'm just kind of guesstimating, but yeah, you've been everywhere. I mean, I drive everywhere. That's why people, everywhere you drive, how do you know everywhere you're going without it? I know everywhere in this Central Florida. I've driven there probably 50 times.
Wow.
All of it. Yeah. I do a lot of driving, but I'm trying to think of some other crazy stuff. And I've had some really spooky animal encounters, rattles.
Really?
I was in a crawl space on my stomach, and not one, but 2 rattlesnakes. One of them started, ragging the tail, not 4 feet in front of my head. And I just had to slowly shimmy back out from under the house. That was creepy.
Yeah, that would bother me.
I got in a house. I was in the attic, and you have to realize in Florida, there's no attics, it's just trusses. You're just stepping on trusses. If you're not standing on the truss, you're standing on sheetrock. And if you're standing on sheetrock, you're back downstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're falling through. Have you fallen through?
I have not.
Like Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Yeah. But I was on the complete other side of the attic and came upon a big old fat mother raccoon and her babies. And she chased me all the way out of the attic.
That's probably not a very
raccoons are nasty, man. I ran across that attic. To this day, I don't know how I ran through that attic without missing a truss, but I did it, and came down that scuttle hole about 100 miles an hour. And the buyers looked at me like, I said, "Hold on," and I shut the scuttle hole behind me.
You know what people don't realize about Central Florida till you come here is the amount of wildlife.
Oh, man.
You think, it's a hot swamp, so they have gators and snakes, right? No, we have every animal you have up north, and gators and snakes and lizards and armadillo. The first time I saw an armadillo, I was like, excuse me? Are we in like Lubbock, Texas or something like that?
Yeah.
What is that thing? That is this? Okay, so get this.
Snakes, scorpions, bees, wasps.
Here's the crazy thing I learned about the number of black bear down here in Florida is like, what, 4,200? It's a large amount.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're familiar with where I live, right? Is kind of like Hamlin Grove, right? So it's essentially west end of the Dr. Phillips Orange passes, which go all the way to 27, right?
Correct.
But essentially, we're almost as far west other than Avalon before you start getting to the Claremont Wildlife Reserve.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so 10 years ago, where I am, there wasn't any homes. It was orange trees and wilderness. What we have noticed in the small time we've been here, and I guess we've been in this house for 3 years now, but almost, the amount of wildlife being pushed out of their habitat. And it's heartbreaking. And we started about a year and a half ago seeing rogue coyote just wander. And I live in a monopoly neighborhood, Zach. I do not live in a bing bong podunk, rusted out trailers with hillbillies on them neighborhood. I live in a monopoly.
Are you saying that's what my neighborhood is?
Yes. I'm also, Chris also knows where I live in terms of monopoly. Like, it's just Orchard Hills and Orchard Park is probably 1,000 homes. I don't even know. It's huge, right? And then there's Summerport, Summer Lake, like it's its own metropolis, okay, minus any reasonable amenities. But there's homes.
I'm in your neighborhood all the time.
Right, so too.
Yeah.
And we would go running at like midnight, because it's hot. Summer, go really early, really late, and you'd just see coyote just running down the street, like jogging with you. And they're not interested in you. They're pretty timid, but they're just running out, okay? So probably last May, somewhere early last summer, we had a car show one night to go to for the store, and my wife's at home, not a big deal, safe neighborhood. A week prior, I was walking with her, and I saw a large shadow lumbering through someone's backyard. And I said, and in my head said, "That's a black bear." I did not see it. I saw the shadow. I've never seen a man walk like that. I've never seen anything walk like other than this as a black bear.
Yeah.
And I said, "Don't say anything. Just turn around and walk that way." And I said, "Just go." She walks. We walk back. And so I'm at this show a few weeks later, big news all over the place. We've got a mama black bear and whoever else with her just going through our trash 10 feet from our house at the end of the driveway like it's a freaking zoo.
Yeah, don't mess with bear.
And they're jumping. I mean, they're beautiful and they're not really harmful, but
oh yes, they are. They are deadly.
Excuse me.
Especially if they got the babies.
They are deadly.
Excuse me. I wouldn't assume one is just going to come out of nowhere and brawl and thrash me. It can happen, right? But I'm not
for sure
super worried about that. But point being, I mean, just to see that animal in a neighborhood like this is nothing I'd ever thought would ever happen.
Sure.
And it's becoming normal. Like I don't know if you have Ring camera and you see notifications.
Oh yeah.
I've got one in the Sky Lake area for my shop. I've got one in Kissimmee where we rented. I've got one here. I've got one back home in Michigan. And I'll always get them in here. They're always about wildlife.
Yeah.
And you're like, really? In that cookie cutter monopoly neighborhood? Oh yeah, dude. Just the craziest stuff wandering around, and you're like,
it's a lot. It's a lot.
So I can't imagine what you see.
All of it on the regular. I mean,
have you ever walked into a home and, what was your street a little bit ago, Zach?
My street?
Yeah.
Where I live?
You sending me wildlife videos.
No, that was just you were talking about a bear. It just walked down my street the other day. We got him on video.
But you live in the boonies.
I don't anymore.
Okay, here, Chris. Have you ever? What's the craziest wildlife you've seen in celebration? God's bubble gift to the world.
It's not.
There's wildlife. No, there's marsh. There's plenty of wildlife.
Well, it's a 6,000 acre nature preserve is that behind us. So yeah, we get it. I've seen everything here. Turkey.
I love the
boar,
lake out there.
Wild boar, coyote. A lot. We're getting a lot of coyote. Everybody is though. They're
get bear through there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Did you know
deer? Lots of deer.
Zach and Lorianne got married in downtown.
Yeah, in the park.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are deer here that people will joke are animatronic Disney deer because they'll just walk around in people's yards and they don't run away. They just hang out.
They're so used to it.
Yeah, they're just so people drive in their cars and they stop and look, deer, and the deer are like, but
they're like, what's up?
Yeah.
Disney has that at their wilderness campground too.
Yeah.
I don't know if have you ever gone there to see like the Halloween lights or Christmas lights?
Sure.
And when you're walking, like you could take the bus, but you can also walk from the parking lot to the campsites, and there's kind of probably a quarter-mile strip of transition area.
Yeah,
they'll have times where there's just 30 deer just chilling there, like and you're 10 feet from them.
Yeah.
What's really funny is you guys call them deer. They're like large dogs. They're little baby things.
Yeah, compared up north,
where we grew up, there's not a deer.
I agree.
Yeah, I know.
Those little the key deer are like fawns from where we're from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, and I get it. There is a lot of stuff getting pushed out here because they're building so many homes so quickly here. The wildlife, and it's very sad. It seems that out here, because as you call it, the country sticks, whatever.
Definitely.
This is where everybody drops their dogs off when they don't want them anymore.
That is atrocious. Don't say that.
It is, but we're getting a pretty big.
I'm not listening.
I don't know that I'd want to take my pups out for a walk at dusk because we might run into something.
You do sit out on your front porch with a shotgun for those people, correct?
If I catch them, absolutely.
Thank you very much. And I think Chris can
you know how much I love how much I love dogs. I've got
animals in general. Listen, man, they don't have malintent.
No,
unless you're a polar bear.
They can't burn you, right? They can't burn you.
I'd like to be a polar bear.
Unless you're a polar bear, then you're eating everybody.
Eating anything and everything because they're hungry.
I'm striking out with a bear tonight, so I'm not going to mention that again, Chris.
I know. Let me tell you what.
You're doing great,
Derek. Bears they're really cool animals. I would not get anywhere near them.
Oh, you wimp! They're beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't get near grizzly bear. I've seen.
I would now. Black bear will take an arm off without even thinking about it.
Yeah, they're very strong. They're very
just like
strong.
I wouldn't get near a gator.
Strong, but I've never really. I've been near them walking. Like when we'd hike in Michigan, we'd see them all the time, and I've never. I would be more scared of a moose charging me than a bear. And not a bear, a black bear. I'd be more scared of like a moose.
If it's a mama black bear, with her cubs, she will charge.
Sure.
If it's just a bear out looking through the garbage,
I guess
you make enough noise, they're going to walk away.
Yeah.
I guess that would be a key differentiator with any animal species, like Chris's raccoon. Like if you come across a goose nest, I mean, the mama's gonna go wild.
Yep.
Yeah. Just like gators, you know when it's mating season and you
Oh
hear
my
the
God,
bulls
yeah.
the bulls talking and everything, you don't want to go down by the water.
Dude, we had a guy in an airboat take us out in wild Florida and freaking literally stomp a gator nest to get it to like hiss at. I'm like, bro, leave it the F alone, man.
Yeah, them guys know them gators. They're all buddies.
Oh, they
Probably
do.
go
And
out-
the
they
thing
go
is, he's
drinking
going
after
at him,
work.
and he's like, "See, she's friendly. It's just ripping the oar off the paddle. No big deal." I'm like, bro, you need to stop, man.
I was
Leave it.
actually, it's
How would
funny
you
you said
feel if
that.
someone was in your bedroom and it's a toddler just harassing your mother, man? Get out of this home.
Yeah. We
I
don't
was-
need to be
I was-
entertained that badly.
I was watching a
No.
video. It was a group of it was a family, I guess, visiting Florida, and they were in one of the springs. I don't know where they were, and a big old gator just swam up, and they're like, he's just a gator. He's fine. I'm like, he's not. No.
See, that's
Swim
funny 'cause
away.
I find that most people from not here think gators just come out of nowhere and eat us, and we're just like, dude, they're fine. Leave them alone.
Just leave them alone, right?
Yeah.
Unless, of course, they're with their babies. Once again, you get too close, mama's gonna thrash you.
Never.
But I don't.
experienced
I mean,
that.
there's gator attacks. And it happens. I have not ever, thank God, witnessed one.
If a massive animal is starving and you stumble across it, you are fair game.
Sure. Or your dog, if
if
you're
a- if
walking,
a-
whatever.
If a well-fed predator animal is strolling the afternoon sunlight without anything to protect, all you got to do is mind your biz.
Oh, a funny story. You're talking about a raccoon. I was out measuring a fence the other day with a guy. He runs a homeless shelter, Section 8, I guess you want to call it. It's a big place on OBT.
Okay.
And we were back measuring a section of fence that needs to be replaced. And this raccoon just comes rolling out, just walking around. And I'm like, that's not good. He's like,
broad
why?
daylight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, raccoons don't come out during the day unless they're sick. And he's like, I didn't know that. I'm like, oh yeah, I would not go up. I just walk away from it. Let him be.
Create space. Create
Maybe.
space.
And he went back under the fence out into the field where the other side where we were. And then I just hear him like thrashing in the weeds. I'm like, yeah, there's something wrong with that coon. He's sick.
Yeah. The only time they'll come out in the day is if humans are teaching them to by feeding them and
I have
them
a
out of their
sneaky
natural
suspicion
habits.
because he wasn't foaming or looking he wasn't hissing or anything. I think the people who were living there were feeding him and he was coming out looking for food.
That's when they'll break their natural
Little
rules,
trash can pandas.
Yep.
Chris,
Yeah, but I mean, we look, Chris. We talked about residential and all the sketchiest and biggest. Do you do commercial stuff too?
I'm trained for commercial inspection. I don't do much of it. It's an interesting industry. It's a different type of inspection. For me, I just like to be in and out. With the residential, it's they come, you're good to go, and you're in and you're out. The commercial, you can spend a lot of time putting stuff together and still not get the job, and it's just
okay.
it's a pain in the ass. I make more money.
So if you show up at a commercial job, it's not pay me because I'm here. I'll submit you what I got going on, and then you pay me.
Well, it's like any commercial project. Nothing happens quickly. Everything's slow, and it takes months. And where
there's a bidding process, I imagine.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, correct. There's a bidding process, exactly, and it's just it's a pain in the butt.
It seems like if you're not structured to do it that way, it's a lot of investment for potentially a non-transactional thing unless the relationship is so strong. You're the designatee for that broker per se, or whoever may have. I don't even know who has the say over
I'm sure commercial
inspector, but there's more people involved. There's more layers involved, and like if you have a center like where I am, it's owned by some huge asset management company in Chicago with a Central Florida management group with individual tenants. Like there's in individual security and maintenance. There's no chain of command.
Yeah. I mean, I know guys that make a killing in commercial, but it's just not my cup.
But they just go after commercial strictly, pretty much, right?
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, we have like with our business. I'm residential, but I'll do some commercial small stuff. I get a lot of little apartment complexes need me to do their fence or repairs or around their pool or whatever. But then we have a commercial guy who specifically goes after the big bids. And you're right. He may not hit anything he'd be working on something for 6 months and all of a sudden, bam, he gets $500,000 job or whatever. But
Yeah.
it takes a while. So I could imagine that would be stressful.
Yep.
I also have a friend who does, and this is kind of interesting. He does boat inspections. So if you're going to buy a boat, most of them are yachts, obviously, but he's done small ones. But if you're going to buy one, the most of the time the buyers request it, or I don't know if they require it. I'll have to ask him. But it's very similar to a house. I mean, he has to go over all the electrical, the motor. See, I mean, he's on a boat for 3, 4, 5 hours.
Is that a separate license, Chris?
I know nothing about boat inspection. I'm going to be dead honest with you.
He did have to take a test. Yeah, I'm sure he's licensed by the state.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, I mean I know, but usually the state has all these license sections.
I don't think a boat inspector falls into the same, believe it or not, bailiwick as a home inspector. I don't know any home inspectors that also inspect boats.
Well, here's a curveball for you.
Yeah.
Have you ever done a houseboat?
No, I have not.
Okay. Because would that fall under the boat or would it be falling under the house?
It would probably fall under the boat.
Yeah.
Just because it has to have all the things needed to be on the water.
Right. Okay. But it has a house on it with electricity.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if somebody called me tomorrow and said, "Hey, I don't care about the boat side of it. I don't care about the motor. I don't care about the transmission. I don't care about all that stuff. I just want you to tell me about all the house components." Yeah. Sure, I'll go do it. There's no law that says I can't.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I mean,
Chris's equal opportunity doesn't discriminate in all areas of his life.
Green. Everybody's green to you, right?
Hey,
trust me.
You have to be these days.
Listen.
Now, with your business, is this strictly what you do? Just home inspections?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a team that works for you? Is it just you?
Solo. Yeah, solo.
Nice.
But and then there's the inspection, the termite inspection. I do sewer scope, water testing, mold testing. So there's lots of ancillary. So not a lot of inspectors have all these other licenses and stuff to do.
Chris, what's the name of your company again so we can get it out there?
Home Inspection Resource.
You want to throw that in the link in the description, Zach?
Yeah. And you got your
HomeInspectionResource.com. HomeInspectionResource.com. Yeah.
Home Inspection Resource.
You got that?
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw it in the chat too, just so you have it.
Nice.
HomeInspectionResource.com.
Oh, hello.
Huh?
It shot up on the screen and made a noise. I know. So I said hello.
Well, hello to you, my friend.
I was excited.
Hey, I didn't get this. I'm sorry, man. I gotta go back to these. You probably
you're fine.
These, but I don't care. It's like entertainment value. Like
No, you're fine.
The worst drug house paraphernalia or passed out or heroin needles in the arm. Come on, man. You have to have
definitely came on a, we have to train for meth labs. It's something that you learn and train about as a home inspector of how to deal with coming across, that. And I have come across those twice.
Were you in Polk County?
No, actually.
No, that's the pedophile lab.
No, Polk County's a meth capital.
I'll give you one more county guess because they were both in the same county.
Volusia.
Osceola.
No.
Really? All right, then.
Broward.
Orange. It's got to be orange.
Broward.
Marion.
I
mean, Marion County's huge. Marion County, you could fit Rhode Island in Marion County, so that's saying a lot.
Well, but isn't a lot of Marion County Ocala?
Yeah, Ocala, Summerfield, Bellevue.
You're
out in the middle of
it.
Lots and lots of super.
The villages dip into Marion, but the villages are in Sumter, Marion, and Lake.
Correct.
Yeah.
Soon to be in Miami-Dade if they keep going.
That is not the meth capital of the world. The meth capital of the world is actually very close to where I grew up in Allegan, Michigan.
Yeah.
Polk County used to be like number 1 or number 2 for meth.
Allegan's always number 1. There is more teethless
individuals.
That's
good to be proud of.
Yeah.
I'm not proud of it. I am proud of it because it's something. Listen,
That's all right.
misspelled to be
Camden, New
proud.
Jersey's the murder capital. Whatever. Or we give Detroit a good run for its money.
Fair.
No,
Fair.
Baltimore, St. Louis. Come
Fair.
on.
Yeah.
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 But
All right.
you,
So when
see
you
everything.
find a meth lab,
Yeah. You have to report it. There's a whole process. There's a
Have
process.
you seen someone cooking? Have you been in danger? Have you seen a whole setup? Like
Neither
have
of
you
neither of
seen
those
Breaking
scenarios.
Bad status.
Neither of those
how he makes his
scenarios.
money, Derek. Leave him
There were
alone.
there were no humans there at the time.
That's good.
For either of those. But I would honestly just say probably the scariest things were the 2 times with squatters were because they just caught me off guard, and you just don't know who they are. And the second one was much worse because the guy was a lunatic. And
Tell me about that.
he was, defecating on the floor in the house. Like when I went through the front door of the house, I immediately thought, yeah, this one's going to be a cancel just from the smell. And I have a full respirator for getting in attics and stuff. So I threw that on to see if it would be bearable enough for me to just get eyes on the place and see what I could do. And then once I got inside, I could hear somebody moving, and the guy yelled out at me, "Who's there?" And I said, "I was going to ask you the same thing." And I just made my way back out the door, and he came out the door, and I didn't want to be within 15 feet of this guy. I mean, he was like a walking plague. He was just covered in filth, and probably 80% of the reason the house smelled the way it did. But he was just he was a very spooky dude. He didn't really have much to say to me. I felt, you just get that sixth sense feeling where if I turn my back on this person at the wrong time, they might do something weird. So I just made my way back to the car, locked the car up, and called the realtor and said, I can't do this. I can't get this done. We've got, there's somebody living in the house, and they have, for lack of a better word, shit all over the inside of the house and urinated in the house, and it is a disaster. And
you had a mental disorder.
But that was one of those scenarios, Derek, where you said earlier, like, how the hell does it get to that point and somebody sends me there? That was on that particular realtor. This was many, many years ago. So, but it's anybody would know about. I don't even think they're a realtor anymore.
Do you want me to put their name in the chat?
Yeah. Their name is D Bag. But they, they never even went and looked at the house. They were looking at houses for an investor.
Oh, yeah.
And they just saw it for sale. And so they just thought, hey, yeah, we'll just send Chris out there. It's like, thanks. I could have been murdered.
Well, that's why you have your concealed carry.
Yeah, true. I'll be honest with you. I rarely take it into homes with me. I mean, I don't ever really feel the need. It's normally just in my vehicle, and it's, where it needs to be. I do have a large case that I take in with me with, all the tools and stuff I need. If something feels extra shady, then yeah, it'll just be in there, but it's not, nobody sees it.
Right.
Nobody would even know I have it. So
Until now.
And that's only been, well, it's very rare. So to anybody
this
out
is
there,
Florida. Everybody has a gun.
Everybody does.
Yeah. Most of the places I go to is
we had a
no issue.
Yeah, I'm sure you just deal with a lot of true blue homeowners who just want to get the job taken care of for them. And
it's a weird thing. Yes, I agree. It's a weird thing I tell people, like my friends that I still have in the Northeast and stuff. There's very few places in Florida that sketch me out. Is that weird compared to like growing up in the Northeast? Like, my sister lived in New York City. Like, I don't know. Those are like, or New Haven or Bridge. My mom worked in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Like, those are places like you're in the wrong spot. Like you're effed. Like you're not, it's not going well.
Fly into Newark Airport and get off the wrong exit. Yeah, you're done.
I mean, I've been to places in California where it's just like, oh, we shouldn't have, we got to get out of here. We're in a gang territory. Like, I just don't feel like there's a lot of that in Florida. There's very few places I won't go to. Where people
I mean, I used to joke when I first moved here back in the early 90s. I used to say, there's not a neighborhood I wouldn't walk through at 3:00 in the morning. But now it's getting a little worse. I mean,
what's
we've got to deal with a lot of stuff.
I totally reversed, and maybe I'm just not used to it yet. But the first 35 years of my years in Michigan, sketchy places for sure. Yet feeling I felt more at home with that sketchiness than this. In Florida, I feel like. And maybe I'm traumatized because the first year we rented a house in a nice area, but it was right by the Shingle Creek Trail, right, and it was probably a couple miles from 192. And several times that I had people very influenced with drugs do crazy things that are completely the drugs, not the person. And I just feel like in Zach, you obviously both know where my shop is. Several times I've had people walk in on me with 15-inch knives or with that heroin look in their eyes, where I've pulled out the Glock 19 and said, I only fire this, and watch them walk away or call the cops, whatever it may be. And I feel that here, every time I come across a sketchy person area, I smell the drugs.
Yeah.
And I'm not scared of the person. I'm scared of the drugs, because the drugs have a mind of their own, and the drugs immortalize the person. I mean,
yeah. I mean,
you get, when you make eye contact and you're like, oh shit, that's the devil.
Yeah, I guess what I mean is, I just, like, I keep space. I'm very street smart. I know how to pay attention. I'm not saying I want to go hang out. I'm just saying there's very few places I won't go do an inspection, and most people respect why you're there, and they realize you're just
Right.
working, and nobody bothers you. Just get into your job, get out, and that kind of thing.
I was down on Paramore measuring, and it was a flipper. He just bought a duplex over there. Might have been more than triplex or whatever. There was a group of little apartment homes, whatever, and it was next to an apartment complex. And in the parking lot, a bunch of dudes just hanging out. You know,
Yeah.
when I first pulled up, they're all eyeballing who's this guy, and I get out with my wheel, and I'm wheeling off, and then they went back to playing dominoes or whatever they were doing. And as I was walking back to my car after I talked to the customer, and he was there, he was walking with me, and I said to the guys, I said, have a good day, guys. Thanks for the contact high. And they're like, yo, man, you want to come over and get high? We're good. Come on. I'm like, nah. By then it was all cool. Nobody, but some people might have been a little leery in that neighborhood. You just got to know your surroundings and know what's going on. But I get what you're saying, Derek, about the look in their eyes. Back in the day, there was a big switch in law enforcement on the weapons they carried, that we went from 9s to 40s, because we had a lot of people doing some stuff that you could unload a clip into them and it wouldn't even phase them. That's
When my wife and I
we
would
need
bike
something
on
with a little bit of a
Shingle-
punch.
When my wife and I first started biking on the Shingle Creek Trail, it was all fun and games. By 6 months in, when I would have like a runner's waist belt on, and I would have my stun gun there, my bear spray, and then my it was it's a BB 167 psi Glock 19 right on my waist, and I didn't give a crap who I passed. Regular families watching me pedal with that shit up and down my thighs. I don't care. I was not gonna do that anymore.
You look like a medium duty cop out just running the trail.
That's great. It really
He's
got the pepper
really
spray,
helped.
he's got the
It's
stun
called-
gun, and he's got the firearm. He's
You go by
literally,
somebody and be like,
called
I'm
deterrent.
Batman.
that's
Because
literally
I've been
what they're
spit on in
carrying.
the face. I've had people turn around their bikes and come at me. I've had people under the bridge passed out. I hate the drugs. I hate the drugs. I've always hated drugs. I've had
Well,
since a
stop
very
doing
thank
them, then, Derek. Stop doing them.
Right. Stop doing
you
drugs,
have them at
Derek.
an early age when some of your friends from the cradle go to heroin at 17.
Yeah.
You before you get into that world and you get yourself out, you realize there's that whole other layer to society. It's a gray layer. It's a different layer. It's a different world. I hate the world. I wish it didn't exist. I don't want to be around it. And everywhere I go outside my Disney bubble here are most places I won't go, because I just smell it. I smell it. I smell it at every gas station. I smell it at everywhere around my shop. I smell it everywhere in Kissimmee. I know it's there, and I hate it, because once you make that interaction, it's not person to person anymore. Yeah. It's like having a drink as an alcoholic, Zach. It's not the alcohol. It's it's your addiction. You can't stop it. So if I was in let's shut up there. If I was in your role, Chris, that's the thing I would always smell, just feel like, am I in an area where there's drugs or
what weeds
obviously
a lot of,
not in Keene's Point.
What weeds a lot of that out, and I mean, it sounds crazy to say this, but like, most people buying a house aren't really in that state of mind. So
True.
Somewhere with a neighborhood with houses that are being sold, and you typically have gotten into your middle class and up,
You
life.
you might run into somebody in the neighborhood you're in,
Yeah.
or if you're doing an appraisal on a flipper's house or something, and you've run into, the people squatting in there, whatever. But yeah,
Sure.
the average homeowner is just going to be, hey, can you go look at this house for me? Or do sellers ever get home inspections to make the listing prop up a little better?
The pre-listing inspection, they don't do it enough. They should. I mean, if I was,
You hear that? People do pre-listing inspections. Come
I'm
on
just
now.
saying, why wouldn't you want to have somebody tell you what's wrong before you find out? Why find out after you're like in that high pressure stress moment of hoping that the sale is going to go through? Have
And all
somebody
of a
come in
sudden
and
you
get all
need
it done ahead of time. Yeah,
Well,
like
also,
do you check foundation?
everything, roof to
Okay.
foundation.
you know what, Chris, you bring up a huge point though too. Selling a house is very strongly about your price point, right?
Yeah.
It always used to be, and this is why people couldn't sell houses. They're just the stupidest things, like just throw it on independently and see if it's like, no, you can't do that anymore. All these, like you said, the younger buyers, they read the MLS, they read the sale listings, they see when
Yep.
things have come on. And guess what? Now that they're educated, it's not 2004 anymore. They look at that and they say, what's wrong with this house? Okay. So a true seller needs to price that house exactly where the comps and the realtor say it should be, and then 5% under, and wait for that over offer instead of that negotiation down. And to bring it back to your point, if you find a surprise and you get off of that level one notch, you deter so many of those buyers in one way or the other. It's just not, you lose a lot of that leverage.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's something that like you would either want to fix beforehand because or price it accordingly.
Well, yeah, and that's why
Like if
knowledge
you
is the key, though.
If you know it needs a new roof from a pre-appraisal and you can price it 20 grand lower, you're gonna get what you want anyway, as opposed to asking for that and then a surprise, and then they're going to negotiate you down 20 grand because they have to replace something that you didn't disclose. In my opinion,
correct. And it also makes a big price difference too. Is like
huge.
I always use the water heater example. Is that like you can get a water heater replaced for about $800. If you're getting just a 40-gallon, if it's a mid-size house and you're getting your 40-gallon tanker put back in there, if you're paying over $800, somebody's overcharging you. But I know they go much higher than that.
Well, like 2 or 3 grand, dude.
But let's say you're selling a house. You call me, hey, come do a pre-inspection agreement. I come tell you, hey, man, your water heater's 19 years old. They're not going to be able to get insurance on that. Whoever buys this house is going to have to replace that water heater. There's just nothing you can do about it. That's the way the industry is right now. I know it works. Doesn't matter. They're not going to insure it. They're going to give them 30, 45 days to replace the water heater. Why not? If you've hired me to come in and do that pre-inspection agreement, and I tell you that ahead of time, you might know somebody that's going to come get that done for you for $500. And it's done. And it's a brand new water heater. And it's not going to come up in inspection. If you don't do that, and now they come, now you're kind of at the mercy of what that negotiation
they're going to bring you down to the level of the highest. They're going to say,
I want $1,200 for water heater.
No. There's companies that, I think we have a 50-gallon, and I've been quoted like 2,500 to 3 grand.
That's my point.
So so they're going to take that price and come down 3 grand instead of you fixing it for $800.
Yep.
Right.
You can save a lot of money getting everything fixed ahead of time, so that it doesn't even come up in the inspection.
Absolutely. Like I think we did a pre-inspection when we bought this house. Do you check the septic tank?
I don't do septic inspection. I do sewer scope, which basically just tells you the status of the line from your house to the curb or to the tank. Because
it might have been that they did, because we knew that the tank had to be pumped before we bought the house. It was
if your house has a septic tank, I tell everybody, get a septic inspection within your inspection time period. Do not do that. A lot of realtors don't want to do it because it's a pain in the ass. It's another step. I get it, but a new septic tank, $5 to $8 grand. New leaching field, $5 to $8 grand. If somebody's buying a house and they don't know those things are bad, and then they have to drop $13,000, $14,000, $15,000 on a new septic system right after they buy the house, they are not happy.
Right.
So the one I have coming up next week, I told the guy, hire a septic company. He goes, but I've got you doing the sewer scope. I said, that's me telling you how the pipe is from the house to the tank. They won't check that for you, but you need to know that too, because the trees get through there and all that. And
sure.
In a residential community where you have city sewer, that sewer scope inspection is super important, and it blows my mind nobody in Florida does them. I rarely do them. In the Northeast, everybody does them.
What would that entail? Just so our listeners can figure it out.
I just have a scope, a 150-foot scope, and I pull the drain catch and I run a camera down there with a light on it and I film it all the way down and push that all the way through. And if there's damage or trees or branches or cracks or clogs or where, somebody changed the pipes out and let all the putty go down there and create a clog, and you show them, or it's clean as a whistle. But the reality is you own from your house to the curb, even if you're on city sewer.
Right.
So if that pipe is screwed, I know this for a fact. I have a cousin up in Rhode Island, but same thing where he bought the house. He didn't have that checked, and all the sewer, everything's backing up in the front yard. They found out, the tree grew through that pipe.
I would have known you. I wish I would have known you before Turbo Tint, Chris.
Cost him $14,000 to fix that front.
Let me one up you.
Yeah.
When we did our GC informal pre-space inspection, it works it's a little funkier with I don't understand how everything works, but it's kind of like everything's good faith and good order. The sellers disclosed everything they should. Your GCs found what they should. Okay. It's really informal. We found a drain line, where a bathroom. It used to be Kmart Auto Center, so there was a bathroom and a drain line. Like, okay, we can put the bathroom there, and then there was a drain outside. So we're like, okay, cool, it's got a drain, it's good. This, that. There were a lot of surprises, but this was a great one. Found out that somehow, some reason, no idea why, that drain had been filled in under the pavement. This is 6-inch pavement. I don't even know how this is possible, where that drain wasn't connected to the outflow. So we said to we had signed the lease, and we said, hey, we have to trench. I might have showed you this before in the back area. We had to dig a 126-foot long trench through the concrete to the drain in the back of the building. The project was $26,000.
There you go.
And I said, hello. And they said, you didn't find it. I said, no. And basically it came down to, I don't remember what they paid. I think at first they said $10,000. That's all you gonna get. Have fun day.
Yeah.
And I think finally when they gave me improvement money, they added another 10. I think they kind of had some rationale, but like it was, I know I paid at least half of that, maybe more. And it was all because you wouldn't have had the intuition to run a drain snake camera down there to be like, oh, make sure those are connected. Well, yeah, they have to be connected. How could they not be connected?
Right. And what you're talking about right there just brings me back to my point earlier about the price thing, where people don't want to spend money on a home inspection, but they'll pay thousands and thousands of dollars for commissions and everything else. The title company, everybody gets these giant thousands and thousands of dollar checks. I don't care that people get paid. That's not the point of my statement. The point of the statement is, for the $500, $600, $700, $800 you spend for a home inspector, it could have saved you $26,000 on that drain.
Yes.
Right.
That's my point. It's not that I'm not saying realtors shouldn't get paid I'm just saying, like, you don't think, like, you even said, like, oh, my realtor did everything. I'm happy they made their money. And it's just like, but then all these same people that feel like that, and then they don't want to pay for an inspection.
You're punching a nerve in me. It sounds like a $200 tint job on a $100,000 car. It sounds like a $100 life insurance policy on $250,000 of death benefit with someone who has a stroke the next week who said that was a waste of money.
It's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Like,
I agree.
No, wait. We've got to get out of some things. You have to get out of price mode. You have to get into.
I don't care.
Service, whatever.
Yeah, it's more about
mode.
It's more that it's become an inconvenience. I think I explained to you, Derek, it's like once you give a certain area power, they don't want to give it back. And so during that 2021, 2022, when so many realtors weren't dealing with inspections at all, they didn't want to go back to that, because at the end of the day, it is a spur in their side. They makes them nervous, because they're trying to get paid. They're trying to close a deal. And I respect that. I do. But man, you also sign an oath as a realtor to, be in the client's best interest.
But as a realtor, I wouldn't even think it's that. I think as a realtor, you'd want to say, you know, like if you find a problem or mistake and you're like an automotive brained, systemic corrective action type of fixed person, you're going to say, okay, what's the problem? How do I fix it? And then how do I take 10 minutes to make sure it doesn't happen again 9 times out of 10 times, right?
Right. But
You're not gonna
talking
say-
about 2% of the realtors.
Correct, which I understand because they just weren't raised that way. They didn't grow up that way. They're wrong. They're stupid. They're ignorant to the small investment you make now to save those big pains and risks later. That's not a burden. That's not a thorn in your side. That is a major preventative safety net. That's insurance.
It's
And
life
that's the same
changing
thing.
for people.
Well,
It's life changing for people.
That's the same thing. People don't complain about car or home insurance because they have to have it.
Right.
Can you afford to use your car and home insurance? Let me guess. No. But people will complain about life insurance, and it's usually cheaper than those. And guess what? You will die. It's the same thing. It's like
a guarantee.
Right.
Yeah, like
It's
like
a
why are we
guarantee.
talking? I get like so. Let me put it this way, right? Zach knows my business. It's been a rough season. There's financial struggles, certain areas and stuff too. I don't know how much I pay for like my policies for life insurance. Probably all together, probably around $200 a month. Guess what? I would go bankrupt and not cancel those just because they're building cash and I'm going to die, right? So it's like the people have to get it out of their mind that an inspection is a price thing. No, it's not. It's an
insurance policy.
Yeah, it's ensuring the deal is going to go through and level loading your risk on both sides, both parties.
Yeah,
sure.
Like, why would you not want it on both sides of the party, right? You want to make sure your value and your price, you're going to get what you want. You don't want lowball negotiations. You don't want to go there. You want a firm, pure, clear expectations as a seller, and as a buyer, you want to know what you're getting into. I will say in that buyer's market, we knew how to be a good buyer and just say, the sale isn't contingent on that, but I'm not going to not get one.
Right. But it does take me back to
the house isn't too old.
And again, I'm not just complaining. But it takes me back to what I said earlier.
It makes sense.
It shouldn't be in the realtor shouldn't have so much power over whether it gets done or not. That's just my opinion. Because unfortunately, yes, I think they say 85% of the sales get done by the top 4 or 5% realtors in any city in a year, which is insane. The other 95% do the rest, the 20% of the sales. That's real statistics. Those realtors, yeah, they're great. Of course, they're always going to do it the right way. That's why they're in the top 5%. That's why they get all the sales, because they're taking care of their clients.
I'm going to say this about our realtor, Danielle O'Quinn, Weimar. I'm shamelessly plug her. She's incredible. One thing they do different too is they think beyond the transaction.
Yeah.
You're 85-90% of realtors having control over that and saying, let's get this done deal. They're not thinking beyond this transactional moment in time. They're not thinking, hey, if we do a great job for the seller's agent and this buyer, it's possible that they're buying a $300,000 house, but they know a friend who's in the market for like a $6 million house. Like how do I do this right from start to beginning, tie up every button perfectly? And those people think beyond the transaction, and they run into those gems, and it turns them into that upper echelon that they are, right?
And I'll tell you why that is because most people run out and get their real estate license without knowing anything about running businesses. And when you're a realtor, you're running a business.
100%.
That's all it is. It's like any small business owner. It's why so many fail. A lot of them don't have a clue on how to do it. They just do it because they think they're going to make money. So yeah, you have the small percentage of realtors that know how to run a business, and they kick ass and they do a great job. And those are the ones I love working with. It's the ones that are just looking for that commission check and don't give a crap about the buyer, and that are make it hard. Those are the ones that muddy it up for the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones I want out of control over any of it, to be honest with you. Not just the home inspection. But it is what it is. And, I have realtors that I've worked with for over a decade, and they respect me. I respect them. And we do great work together and help lots of people buy homes and go through the process well. And that's the goal, right? Is to help people out and get paid doing it. Not going to lie, got to make a living.
Would you do a home inspection on a new build or is
Oh,
that not necessary?
I do them all the time.
Really?
I do tons of new construction. Yeah, yeah. It's a big market, believe it or not. It's especially with the rabid rate of building in Central Florida. There's so many mistakes, so many things go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you want to talk about crazy stuff like where I'm going and doing an inspection on a 5,000 square foot new build in Windermere. This is a huge, expensive home. They're closing in 2 days. All the screws are, let's go, let's go, let's go. And I climb up and they haven't blown any insulation in the entire attic. And you've already got, $150,000 of carpet and flooring in this house, like where that should be done before any of that's in the house.
Right.
They've put things in the house that you don't want to be blowing insulation around. And you got to climb out of that attic and go, you guys are not going to close in 48 hours. There's no insulation in the attic, or you'll find a massive leak behind the wall where the plumbers are just, these companies that they're hiring. It's like the builders are great, but doesn't mean all the subs that they're hiring are.
Right.
So yeah, I do a lot of new construction.
Well, that's good to know. I mean, I've heard some nightmares in the new construction. I'm in a neighborhood. Where is it? I can't even think about it. But anyway, the way they built the drain fields between the houses, they didn't V it properly, so now everything's flooding back to the house. Yeah,
terrible grading.
Everybody's dealing with that.
I do 3 phases on new construction. I do what's called a pre-drywall, and that's where the house is bones. They haven't put up any drywall yet, but the wiring's in, the plumbing's in, and then I go through and I look at everything, make sure everything looks right. Not code, just making sure things look right, that things have been put together. I don't see any big discrepancies. Then I do a pre-final walkthrough, which is, before they close on the place. And then I do an 11-month, which is before, because most new construction homes, you have a 1-year warranty. So I'll go in there on month 11 and do a full inspection of the place again to see what might be failing in the house so they can still get it fixed under warranty.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, and those are great. Those are
good,
important.
good. Now, last question before we wrap everything up.
Yeah.
Is it a market that is easy to get into if someone would like to become a home inspector? Is there a training school? Is there a big test?
So yeah, you have to be licensed. You can, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. You can go to, lots of online schools and things of that nature, but you do have to take a proctored exam to pass a home inspection test in the state of Florida through FABI, Florida Association of Builders. So yeah, it's a process. You need to know what you're doing. I think some of the guys, I wish it was a little bit more stringent. I think that it should be similar to like plumbers and electricians, where you need to, work under somebody for a couple of years before you can.
Well, that was part B to the question. Do you have to be?
Yeah, you don't, and that's one of the things that hurts our industry is you'll have guys that have no construction background. They'll go down, they'll study for the FABI exam, they'll get through it, they'll pass it, and voila, you're a home inspector. And it's like, you don't know anything. You don't know the difference between, balloon construction and, like basic real, you don't know what a header is, a footer is. You don't know, what a lintel is. There's all these things about construction. You don't know anything about it. And now you're inspecting homes. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I feel like you got to be like a builder or something. Like you got to know something.
It's another, I don't know. It's weird. Appraisers.
Like I've never done formal building. I've done volunteer stuff, but we had some classes like in high school that were just architectural based, just like creating different elevations and floor plans. And just in like a few classes, it's like the things you mentioned. It's like, yeah, I learned those at one time, but there's like,
it's weird.
180 terms like that. Like, and if you don't know, and you can't associate the functional, what does that header and that footer do?
Yeah.
And you don't know what they do. So you don't know if what you're looking at is acceptable or if that house is going to fall down, right?
Right.
You don't understand how the grading has to go down from the house, the angles, the pitch of the roof, there's a bajillion things that, I know that I have no clue about. To go out and get that test, I'm sure like you kind of blaze through that stuff, top level studying. But until you see it, touch it, and feel it, and go and see, man, what do you know?
It's definitely an industry that the level of barrier to entry needs to be raised. The apprenticeship, like I said, for electricians, plumbers, any other tech field is 2 years, sometimes more. And same with an appraiser. An appraiser, you have to have a 2-year college degree, and then you got to do, X amount of hours. And, it's none of it is something you can be doing within 30 days. And unfortunately with home inspection, you can, the barrier of entry is pretty low. Doesn't mean you're going to succeed if you're not getting proper training, but there's great training out there. I mean, there's really great training out there. I'm not saying that Fabi or any of these types of companies don't have amazing, training programs and teach people what they need to know, but you probably won't be in this industry very long if you don't learn a lot about it, because
Right.
you're just going to end up getting sued. You're going to end up, making big mistakes. But other than that, it's a great industry. I enjoy it. And yeah.
Awesome. Well, Chris, we really appreciated you coming on tonight.
Yeah, thanks.
Learned a lot. And anybody out there looking for a home inspection, make sure you reach out. We'll put the link in the bio so you can get a hold of Chris and tell him we sent you, and he'll probably hang up on you, but that's okay.
Not true.
Just kidding.
By the way, too, I want anyone listening to really focus on what Chris said in these last few points too, because if you have any ability over helping select who your inspector is or influence who the realtor in doing that, going with someone who's been in that industry for 2 decades is a lot different than someone. And everyone has to start somewhere. So don't get me wrong. Like, look at me, right? I got licensed for life insurance 6 months ago, right? You got to learn somewhere. You got to start somewhere. But
right,
just really keep in mind the level of applicable hands-on experience that
it's
your
huge.
inspector has, and knowing you, Chris, like, you are extremely brilliant and rational and straight-minded and like very functional. The person, yeah, I know I get dandruff in my beard sometimes too. That's okay. But
thank you, Derek.
But I really vouch for that, and
I
I'm really fan of the go and see mentality, right? And so you're that kind of guy. You're going to go and see. Chris is a guy where if you say I think this is going on in the attic, he's going to be like,
let's go see.
He's already going to be on his way out.
Let's go.
Right.
Let's go.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. So I wanted to plug
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate
So
it.
once again, Chris Coates, home inspection resource, and you can check him out on the web, the World Wide Web, at homeinspectionresource.com. Thanks for listening, guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, tell a friend, tell a phone, tell anybody you want. We'll be here again next week. We'll have a great show for you. We're going to have Chris back on again because we did not dabble into the entrepreneurism that I would have liked to have. I would love to chat with you. I would think you and Derek and Daniel, we would have a good show talking about. We have a good friend who used to come on our other show. Who's a he's a home flipper and now he's a life coach or a sales coach.
Nice.
And but he's an entrepreneur like yourself, and that's one thing I really want to start promoting, because we need more entrepreneurs out there, just like we do need more plumbers and more air conditioning guys and home inspectors and all that.
Those are all entrepreneurs.
Those are all entrepreneurs.
Yeah, those are all
That's
entrepreneurs. So you're good.
Love it. One of the things that I really, stuck in my mind, and I think people need to think, if you do need open heart surgery, you don't go with the cheapest, you go with the best. So give Chris a call.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks again. Appreciate it. Derek, you're going to be gone till Sunday?
Something like that.
Perfect. Well, we'll get another show under our belts here soon. Guys, have a great night. Again, like, subscribe, share, tell everybody this is No Brainer. We're out.